Hello, testing.
If you seek greatness, let nothing stand between you and the win. Zero distraction. Zero doubt. Zero opposition.
Hello, Overclockers. Welcome. Oh, screw this. Where's APAC when you need him? Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. It's a pleasure to be here. Epic
It
35.
is.
We've got our Valorant finals today, Cody.
Hell yeah, we do.
Hell
It's
yeah.
the final day of Epic, which is, of course, very, very sad.
Yep.
But we're kicking it off with one of the 2 esports finals we got today. CSGO
Yes.
later today, but Valorant to begin with. And I'm
Yep.
really looking forward to this one.
Yes, absolutely. For those of you that don't know, we have the Goose House taking on Vexed in the grand
Come
final.
on, give it a little bit more. Come on,
Yeah,
the Goose
go on,
House.
Go on.
There we go.
There we go. That's what we were expecting. That is definitely what
To
we
be
were
fair,
expecting.
it is still quite early, so
Yeah.
I can forgive them. And on this side, we've got Vexed.
Henry.
I'm
Henry,
vibing
they're
this
cheering for
guy.
you. The people are cheering for you.
He wants a jersey in the post. He wants a jersey in the post, I guarantee it.
Yes.
Let's jump round. Let's ask some of the guys some of the questions before we get
Yes,
started.
yes,
Jazz,
yes.
do you want to start over with the guys at Goose House?
Keiko, where are you sat, sir? Keiko, I've been told that you're a former Fortnite player. How long was it before you transitioned over to Valorant?
you allowed
like
on the
a year and a
stage?
half ago.
A year and a half ago, and you've not looked back since?
No, never. Not since, bro.
Not since. Stop blaming. I feel like Keiko, you guys have done a fantastic job. You've not dropped a single map throughout the duration of this entire tournament. Canifis, I know you said you wanted to be a part of an interview, right? How on earth have you guys managed to not drop a single map throughout the duration of this entire tournament?
No, I think the quality of scrims we've been playing is a lot higher than the quality of the teams here. So that's just it really. Like the scrims we've been playing, it's like helped us get a lot better in a short amount of time. So you know.
Oh my god, I feel like that was slightly flaming and your teammates are looking a little bit embarrassed.
What do you
It's okay,
expect as an
Keiko,
FPS
it's okay.
game? They're always going to flame each other. It's expected at this point.
It's healthy competition, right? Are you feeling confident going up against Vex?
I mean, the 2-0 yesterday says it all, doesn't it? Really.
Okay, all right. Vex boys, what do you have to say about that?
Fighting words. I'm here with King Haas. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Good. So yeah, let's look back at history. Let's have a look at yesterday. Wasn't great. It was a 2-0, but then you dropped down to lower bracket and you absolutely clapped the opposing team and jumped straight back up. I mean, are you confident coming into this? Was it just a one-off?
Oh, they're absolute noobs. Like, we're going to absolutely destroy them. Like, genuinely, they are terrible.
Ooh.
I genuinely don't think I've seen a group of 5 people look so nervous on a stage.
My God,
Canifis, what do you have to
Jesus.
say in response to that? Are you feeling nervous?
Let's just start, man. Let's let the games do the talking, innit?
Okay,
He's stirring.
okay.
Stuttering. Oh, look, I'm Team Vex right now. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm over here.
I'm over here, homie.
Oh, okay. We're doing
So
this,
it's
huh? We're
basically
really
me
choosing
versus
sides.
you.
I think it's the one
don't
thing
like
you're not meant
losing,
to
by
do.
the way, guys. I don't like losing.
Jeez. All right, guys, Vex, best of luck. We are going to hand it over to our fantastic casters now to kick this off in just a few moments' time. We got the Eternal Jay, we got Rook, and we got Jompy. Hand
Jumpy,
over
the
to you
silver
guys.
player.
Thanks, guys. Yes, it has been a very long weekend. The trash talk is still hype. It's still there, and definitely feeling like with both teams being on the stage, they have every right to trash talk each other at this moment. But Goose House probably have a little bit more staying power than the Vex side, as they mentioned on the stage. 2-0 in the upper bracket final for that Goose House side, beating out the reigning champions, the Vex gentlemen. That probably could be expected in contact, but for the general average viewer, that probably isn't what the Vex side probably wanted to prove here today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously myself and you, we jumped on the upper bracket final yesterday. I mean, in Haven, right? It was Vex map pick, and to be fair, we said yesterday that game was a real toss-up. It was a real 50-50 sort of, roll of the dice, see who comes out on top. And well, fortunately for Goose House, it was them, but on the breeze, they looked so solid. It doesn't surprise me we don't see that in our map pool today. We are going to see Haven, if I'm correct, in the map pool, which is a bit of a statement, you could probably say, from Vex in terms of they think they're going to patch up their mistakes. They've probably gone away, done a bit of VOD reviewing last night and tried to, change their performance slightly, because there was a few rounds where I don't want to say they threw, but they kind of threw a few rounds, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm excited nevertheless. It's going to be a good game.
Well, look, that series went 13-11 and 13-5, so there was a lot of confidence out from the boys over from the Goose House Rook. So in terms of the vetoes itself, I know that you've got actually a bit of information on that side of things. Is there any major changes in this series that we're going to see today?
Well, first of all, so we're going to be kicking things off with Icebox, and then we're going to be going to Ascent, and then finally back to Haven. So if we get to Haven, great. That is the final map, and I think it will be such a great decider, honestly, with how it went the first time. But I think very sensibly, this time, Vex are looking at it and going, well, we're not taking them to Breeze. We're not giving them that chance. And actually, conversely, similarly to the initial matchup, they're not letting Fracture through as well, which obviously would have been a great map for Vex here. So I think we've got probably a more balanced set of maps, and I'm really excited for Icebox. I know we've had a lot of it so far this tournament. There's a reason. It's a solid map and allows teams to kind of show their really own individuality.
Yeah, one point I want to make as well is the Goose House are very, very good on Icebox. It's probably one of their strongest maps. I mean, I'm talking they beat, multiple high tier 2, tier 1 teams on it. The likes of OG, for example, they beat on the map like Icebox as well. So I was a little bit shocked that we saw that in the map pool, but you know what, I don't want to, count Vexed out on that one. They are relatively good in it on their own, but I think Icebox is going to be quite a convincing one for the Goose House. I mean, Ascent, both teams probably not too comfortable on the map in terms of if you're a statsman and you're looking at win percentages on both maps, they're not exactly on the higher front, but I think across the board, the 3 maps we've got will give us a real good indication as to who's going to be the best team on the day.
Well, look, right now, all signs point in the Goose House, right? Because one of the things we've been talking about over the course of the weekend is that this Vex is not like the Vex that won Epic 34. They've lost some key elements. Lear was our MVP, if I remember correctly, from last time, and he's not in the roster. Of course, they've made 3 roster changes since that point, and the big goal for Vex is trying to prove that they can still hang at this kind of a level. Another championship would be that, but the concern is this Vex side has not been able to go as undefeated as the last one did, Brooke.
Yeah, I mean, in part of their performance here so far has been that, obviously, this isn't the full roster. King House is subbing in here. And, I mean, he's certainly no slouch. We love King House, obviously, and he's been doing a great job kind of leading this team on forward, and they've got some great strats, which obviously he knows back and forth because he's the one who made them, so they can still execute that, but it isn't the Vex at their full power. So I think they are suffering a little bit from that, but I still think they can pull out enough power to be able to take down the Goose House here. If they find the kind of, the right 50-50s when you're making those coin flips, I think it really is down to the individual play that makes a big difference. And that's where Vex could potentially have the advantage, because I do think they have some of the better individual players. And I think that while Kaiko can match up to the likes of Alex, I think especially Alex and Luitan are players who've really been impressing me so far this tournament.
Yeah, I think Luitan's probably among the MVP picks as of right now. We're still going to have to decide the tournament MVP. We've got a number of contenders. Luitan most certainly is up there, because in terms of consistency across the entire tournament, he's been probably one of the best here, John.
Yeah, well, I remember it's the exact point I made to you when we was casting the upper bracket final yesterday. I mean, I know Has quite well. I speak to him quite often, and I said, how are you guys, going to cope with the likes of losing Lear and the likes of losing Magic, who are 2 of their most consistent and well-balanced players? And he said, do you know what? I'm not too fussed. Obviously, Lear was a great player in terms of just going out and fragging. Magic was a very good controller player, very smart and good at winning Angels as well. But he said the player that I'm most excited that has not left this roster is actually Luitan, because he's probably the most consistent player on the team. And well, I think we've seen that throughout the competition thus far. I think I can probably look back and it was one map, and it was maybe the Breeze yesterday, where I think I saw him go negative in terms of quite highly negative. Other than that, he seems quite consistent. But yeah, I think that in terms of MVPs, I think one player, like you mentioned, Alex, I thought he's had a great performance thus far as well. Carter as well has really impressed me for the side of Vexed also. But one player that I think a lot of eyes are going to be on from the side of the Goose House is, of course, Keiko, for example. I think that Keiko versus Alex matchup on the Jet versus Jet, especially when the yacht battles come into play, I think that could potentially be sort of the difference factor as to where the game's potentially going to be won or lost on those first bloods.
Yeah, and the Goose House guys, they've definitely been, I bet they get underrated element as of this tournament so far. Like when it comes to Epic Land, obviously they've got the results to back it up. But in terms of the rest of the tournaments in the international space, they've not exactly had the most, not the most reputability, I guess you could say, right?
No, for sure they haven't. They've not had the most success, but I think it's kind of coming for these guys. They've had great performances, not just as the Goose House, but also on that 10-star roster. Under them, obviously, have been loaned on over. And I think a major part of this, honestly, why they've been able to at least have success against, you were talking about taking maps off of teams like OG, despite obviously not being the kind of top-tier roster, is because they are so well coordinated. They do play so well together, and while we look at the stats, for example, they're not necessarily always topping the kill scores or, the 1vx's, like, for example, Alex is, but they are always absolutely top in terms of cast, which is basically how well they play as a team, how much they're contributing to the rounds, and these guys are constantly able to kind of shift who is the focus in the team, because it's not just one player carrying. While we do like to focus on Kaiko and he can absolutely pop off, they have so much fragging power and so much talent in the way they play together.
Well, gentlemen, we're about to jump into our first map of Icebox, so I want to push you for a very quick prediction on this best of 3 series. Scoreline, who's going to take it? John?
I think it's going to be 2-1 Goose House. I think we are going to get to Haven. I think it's going to be a very close third map, but I think the Goose House are just going to edge it out.
No, I've been espousing the Goose House the entire time, and I think they're going to take it 2-0 with how well they're playing, despite the fact that Vexed are a strong team. I think especially this second map on Ascent will be very difficult, but I think they're going to nail it.
Yeah, I'm on Goose House's a hype train as well for me personally, so I'm looking forward to see them sort of take this victory. I do think it'll be a 3-0 affair though. I think Vex might have a few tricks up their sleeve, and we'll find out what those tricks will be as we look towards our first map up of Icebox. It was picked by the Goose House, therefore you can look at this as being potentially the big map that they can sort of take over overall control over. So seeing them get the decent start, of course, defensive pick, of course, will be out from the likes of Vex as you would expect in this kind of a context. So they have that little advantage to kick things off. But in terms of the map win itself, you're probably looking at the Goose House. You're probably looking at them as being the overall favourites in this one. Adrian, pick Shotterman, break it down for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've seen a lot of Icebox this weekend. It's safe to say, Jay, both teams played quite heavily on Icebox, so I don't think any of the team comps will change too much. And, well, no, there you go. It's pretty much straightforward stuff. The likes of the double duelist coming in from the side of the Goose House. Danny, very solid player on a map like Icebox. He likes to get really aggressive, playing off those Lear flashes as well on the Reyna. Of course, Canifis going to be rocking the likes of the Viper. Vipers are almost insta-lock on a map like Icebox. Have to have it 100%. Doesn't surprise me that we see Alex on the Chamber Reaver. I thought he's been very, very solid, in particular with that Headhunter. We've seen him hit some nuts shots. We've seen him pop off with the Tour de Force as well for the ult as well as the op in hand. So you can basically call it a double duelist lineup across both teams. I mean, Chamber, I know a lot of teams, even at tier 1 level, if they don't pick a duelist, they just put the Chamber in the lineup anyway because it can act as such a fast-paced agent both on offense and defense.
Well, it's been working out throughout the course of this tournament. A lot of Chamber action has been seen. I mean, you mentioned the Tour de Force. I think it was Uruk yesterday was mentioning it being as a great substitute for the Operator when you can bring it out, of course. So we'll see probably that being into effect. But pistol basis, again, we will have the Goose House on the attacking side, and Vex will be on defensive to kick things off for our best of 3 series. Final thoughts, gentlemen?
Honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing more from that Chamber. I think it's so important here. Acts in the same way as the Jet and provides a load of pressure. You can even see it aggressively, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that from Alex here. He has been so good, and he's my one to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the way that Vex can essentially handle the Goose House. They're a team that, they have quite a few tricks up their sleeve. They can change the style of play, they change the pace of play. Sometimes they like to play aggressive, sometimes they like to play slow. We're going to head into map number 1. Let's kick it off.
Indeed, it's the Grand Finals Epic 35 between the Goose House and Vex, and it's Vex that start things off on the right foot. Carter with a pistol picked up against Kaiko, forcing the attacking side to rotate their way back into A.
Yeah, really nice pick here early on. Means that they can all go on in. But they get that wall down. They've actually managed to kind of make that rotate happen and try and get some of those frags, but Danny just delivers.
And Loetan there with a decent trade of 3 versus 2, making it 2v2 as Emzu comes up decent, gets some healing in for his teammate, and holds down the line, sees one player up in heaven, can't quite land that headshot. Spike kicking away, and finally they'll get the engagements, but not quite the kill. Still Alex is alive, but only barely. Emzu with a headshot, King has with a trade, and does get overwhelmed. It's Swice to close out the pistol for the attacking force.
Yeah, solid stuff from the start of the Goose House. I think a little bit of miscommunication potentially from the side of Vex. Not too sure why the player's not swung towards backside. I think the Chamber actually probably spotted both of them. But what I liked a lot, though, is it's from the side of Vex, actually. I think they kind of know the way that Goose House like to play this, because traditionally the Goose House on a map like Icebox, they like to try and quite heavily focus towards the middle of the map. They really like to play aggressive towards mid. We saw it so many times yesterday on Icebox when we saw them play in, I think it was the upper semis or the upper quarters. And, I mean, unfortunately, they can't clutch up. It's going to be first round on the board for the side of the Goose House. And, well, for the Goose House, that's exactly the way you want to start things off, especially after losing the first frag of the round. You bounce back, you find the first, you put the spike down, and, well, solid start for them on their map pick.
Yeah, no, I was really kind of going, wow, they through at the start there, but it managed to rectify itself. TGH just kind of pushed on in, and honestly, I do like as well that Vex made quick rotates. I think that's something really important on this map, obviously, but especially important on the pistol rounds, because you need to be able to kind of be there on time to deny at least some of the pushes, because otherwise you have to push those angles where you got someone sitting right behind it and going, hey, I've got the classic, I'm going to right-click you if you step forward, and we kind of saw that happen a couple of times there. But yeah, the miscommunication from Vex, I think, was the most important thing there, because realistically, if it had been a little bit slower, for example, if the Chamber, if Alex hadn't got picked there, they could have easily come back and attacked from 2 very difficult angles to deal with, and there were players out in the open. Sure, they had that wall blocking off one angle, but other than that, absolutely zero cover and zero way to deal with potential utility that were going to come towards them.
Yeah, I think fortunately for the Goose House, they had 2 players under, and I mean, I think it was it might have been Swice who jumped right-clicked to the Chamber initially and found the damage, so from there he was always going to swing and find the kill. But the Goose House, they're going to pick up the Spectres now, just the economy going to be saved on the eco for the side of Vex. And, well, we've seen it so many times already, Jay, in particular on Icebox, the teams that have, had the superior weaponry not make it work for them. Yeah. So can Vex do the same here?
King House will try to be forward contact, unfortunately suppressed by the toxic screens, going out from the attacking force, as you would expect. Pretty standard setup to try to get into this B site. A little bit of damage being done to the likes of Kaiko to kick things off. But the spike plant should be secure without much contention. It's Swize that finds Alex and King House with no angle to work with here, Rook.
Yeah, weapon advantage, and they're actually flexing it quite well here. You know, sometimes it can go wrong. I mean, you always bring up that these pistols can be pretty deadly, especially in Valorant when that utility is so important. But they're keeping the ranges, and TGH know how to play around this.
There's Canifest there with the latest kill onto KB. Carter at least gets one back in turn, but it will be only that one kill for the defensive force. The attacking side of the Goose House making it 2-0 to start things as the guns come out for the Vex side.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff from the Goose House there on the Spectres. Going to allow themselves to pick up the bonus. 2 Bulldogs in hand, still want 2 Spectres, and you'll probably see Canifest just continue to rock that classic. But I like what they did. I like the fact that they didn't. Sometimes, you know, we see teams when they've got the specs up against the likes of the classics or a few ghosts, they get a little bit overzealous. They get a little bit too comfortable. They rush on in, and honestly, I can't tell you the amount of times I need more than 1 or 2 hands to count on my fingers. The amount of times I've been right-clicked at a classic from point blank range, and just I think I need everyone in the venue's hands at this rate. But standard stuff, standard procedures from the Goose House is, like you mentioned, it is going to be Vex to pick up their first rifle round of this grand final. But let's see if TGH can make the bonus work.
Lewitan pushed up aggressive initially towards this A play. Several players to try and deal with. The Aldrone will be the first thing that is seen, so remove that piece of util from play. But generally pretty passive stuff from the defenders, of course. As you mentioned, not getting overzealous, not getting overconfident against the pistols. It's Emzu who will be able to strike first, using the Spectre kind of fist with the Sheriff in hand, will spot out more in presence towards that mid position. And Emzu just going to force the back off.
Yeah, I actually love seeing Emzu on this Sage. Still manages to find those frags, and actually used to be a Jet player when I was watching him before. So shows the flexibility of these guys, and actually I think that's something that TGH can do quite well, so they can flex the compositions. We don't see that here, obviously. They go for the standard composition, but Double Duelist works really well for them. I think it means they can get a lot of aggression, and they're showing that right now.
Rotation's going to get cut off here by the toxic screens, and Ulti Orb going to get picked up as Alex holds the back line. Spike plant can be denied. The barrier orb will go up, but Alex able to get the kills against 3 players regardless. Kaiko with 2 to respond in a 2 versus 2 situation. Spike is picked up, and there is time to work with. Kaiko will cover off the rotation to Swize gets the plant in.
Yeah, Kaiko in such a great spot. He's going to spot Carter. So 2 versus 1. KB. And what is going to be potentially the first break of the economy of the round, or the whole game, should I say, really. He's going to find the first. He has no idea. Keiko, he's not spotted him. He has spotted him. And it's going to be the quad draft for Keiko. We highlighted him as a player that can really pop off for his squad. But you've got to say that if you're Alex on the side of Vex, you're heartbroken. You've done such a great job to find the first, deny the spike plant, find the third as well. But in the 2 versus 2, as soon as that first kill comes through, although it's traded, it's easy stuff for Keiko as he picks up his 5th of the game and just won off that Blade Storm.
I'm looking at that again, and I think there's a little bit of miscommunication here, because sure, you killed the Sova, and they were in a similar place, so you're thinking, oh, there's no one there left anymore, but there should have been the communication that it was the Jet who was sitting there. They should have known what that player is and should have been able to close them out. So unfortunate again there from Vex, and they're really going to be feeling the after effect of that one. And when you look at that economy, they're over on the Sheriffs. I mean, certainly Sheriffs are no slouch, but they're no Vandal for sure.
You mentioned the inability to count due to the Shin volume of certain stats, and you can see the Shin volume of the bonus round wins we've seen over the course of the tournament. That's one more to add to the tally for the 3-0 start for the Goose House here. But just as passive and just as careful, in spite of the real lack of investment and the lack of weaponry for the likes of Vex. Alex will still try press forward, Sheriff in hand. Danny picks up that kill and looks in with a second. It's Kaiko there with a quick headshot. A has been completely opened up.
Yeah, that was really nicely done. That A site completely in their control. The Viper obviously so brilliant at divvying up that site, making it very easy to execute onto now. And the retake is going to be certainly very difficult, especially with that weapon deficit here. Canifest easily gets a spike on down, and they back on off and play this slow and low burn game.
And just simple stuff to be held here. You'll see Carter trying to peek, and information is going to get gained against one player at the very least. Lean forward with the pistol. There comes a kill against Danny. Emzu there with a fast responsive, and ultimately these pistols don't find much here for the Vex side. King Haas 1 versus 4. Spotted out and taken down by Canifest. Effective starts from the Goose House side, and this is kind of what we were expecting to see, gentlemen.
Yeah, and that's why I was very surprised as to the fact that Icebox was left in the map pool, because they're so good on it. They really, really are. It's a map that I think really sort of utilizes and suits their style of play very well. I mean, you mentioned the fact the likes of Emzu, who of course used to be a Jet player and more of an aggressive duelist, and he took a bit more of a reserved kind of flex role here on this Goose House lineup. And I think that, you know, having those players that can easily adapt and, you know, sort of, you know, change the way they play in certain situations is so vital. And I mean, look across the board, there's going to be full bias for both sides, so the rifle rounds do come back up for the second time here in this grand final. But look, Jay, at the ult economy on the side of the Goose House. 4 very big ults available, in particular that Viper's Pit.
Yeah, they're going to lean towards that A site once again. Several players held back on the defensive line. It's Swides that will try and prod for early info here. Shouldn't get spotting out with that Aldrin, at least aware of where Alex is. Takes that quick shot and falls back.
Yeah, Tour de Force on display right now, and, well, it's a very good way to shut down that A-site push, and I think that's why we're seeing, for example, TGH just take it a lot slower this time round, trying to push on many different points on the map and go from there. That mid-control we were talking about before is definitely part of their strategy right now, but if they get caught, things can really fall apart without a controller here. So love the fact that they make sure that they don't get caught in that mid.
It's very slow once again here. Vexed happy to receive the Goose House whenever they make their moves in. They'll be unaware of how many ultis are here, and they could get popped out at any point. We've got Empress, we've got Viper's Pit. That could also just clear out the sites itself. We've seen that utilised so many great times on Icebox, not only in this tournament, but also throughout the rest of the Valorant scene. So lots of options available. Hunter's Fury gets brought to the table instead, firing away. Alex is taken down, so that's the Tour de Force removed instead, and nothing gained by Carter's part. Shock Dart into the site, will try and dish out some sort of damage, but won't be able to do much. Instead, it will be Viper's Pit, popped out by the attacking side as the spike goes down.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very tough spot now for the side of Vexed upon this retake. You've got the Viper's Pit popped, you've got the likes of Danny positioned so well up towards the top of pipes, and I mean, for the side of Vex, not a lot of U2 upon the retake, but that's going to be KB. First frag on to Danny to tie things up at 4 apiece. Now he's behind enemy lines. He's going to be a very, very tough spot. Carter finds Keiko as well.
Emzu creeps around in the midst of that smoke. It's Luitan that gets away with the frag. Viper's Pit going to get removed, but that's all vision for Emzu. Doesn't quite get away with it. King has for the final frag. Carter with the defuse, and the first round goes the way of Vexed.
Finally a round on the board here for Vex, and actually so well executed on that retake. Took them a while to get that Viper, but once they did, it all fell apart. And a good couple of frags. KB with a beautiful backstab. And from there, Vexed are so good when they're in sync. When I see the kills come in a torrent, that is when I know Vexed are firing on all cylinders and that they can show us the level of play that we expect to see from them. That's what I want to have, and that's, well, honestly, their route to success. Well-coordinated pushes that are going to lead to multi-kills coming out and then easy retakes coming on through.
Yeah, it was vital for KB to find the first frag upon the retake, and then from there, you know, it's so annoying, Jay. I mean, we see it so many times in the competitive. When, you know, when someone's behind you, you have to sort of focus towards that area, and that's where the gaps and the dents in the armor can start to show. Well, speaking of Viper's Pit, in the last wave of Viper's Pit popped on the side of the Goose House. It's going to be Canifis who invests. Oh, sorry, not Canifis. It's going to be King Huss who invests that. There's already, look at it, a lot of damage done early on here to the side of the Goose House.
And trying to press forward in the midst of said Viper's Pit. Of course, this is a defensive style of Viper's Pit. Doesn't quite hold its line forever, though. Should get cleared up in a moment's time because they don't stick around forever. Kaiko has taken all sorts of that control. It won't be held in position, so B-site can get taken. They've got their own toxic screens out on their own Viper for the attacking line. So, again, very similar setup to what we've seen so far in the tournament from the Goose House. Vexed can't really do much here to deny. They could find some blind sprays, but no casualties as of yet here, Brooke.
No, not yet, and they don't have the utility to try and deny, unfortunately. Viper's Bites don't do a great job in trying to deny this spike plant, but could certainly go for it if King House feels it is relevant, but they'll just plant in a different place, give it a little bit of time. It doesn't last that long. Maybe a slow orb to catch some players as they make the rotate, but as we said, that wall is going to be effortlessly important in how it's going to shut down any sort of counteracting this play as they move on in now.
Popped out in the open, Swides providing some covering fire. Also got the barrier orbs in from the attacking side. Snakebite is just going to get tanked here by Canifis. Hunter's Fury comes in from the attacking side. 5 points of HP for Canifis to escape, but does get some healing in as Swides just doesn't catch anything. May have caught a tag towards one player in the back. And it's just as slow as standard from KB and co. Empress is called in by the attacking side as well. Again, they have the ult economy advantage, too much that they can utilize. Empress can come through for the defenders as Vex starts setting up for the retake. The recon dart gets removed from play. Carter is watching top of the rope. Shock darts coming in. Alex gets a kill. It's Swize and Danny to return fire. And now Carter's on. The barrier orb goes up. Emzu spots him though, gets the kill alongside Danny and doubles up onto KB. Luitan makes it a 1v2 as he gets one kill in, rounds the corner. Desperate to catch another player, tapping out Spike once again. Emzu forced on a peak, but the kill comes in for a triple, and it will be a fifth for the Goose House.
Emzu going huge for the squad. Luitan in a tough situation now in the 2 versus 1. A little bit of unfortunate timing. Every time he decided to jiggle the bomb or the spike, should I say, rather, he just rounds the corner. It's a heartbreaking situation, honestly, but nevertheless, though, the Goose House. And the reason why they was able to commit to B, right, is I actually really liked what Keiko did. He dashed straight through the Viper's Pit and immediately got in towards the back of Yellow. So what's that going to do? It's going to force the likes of Hass, of course, to just come out of the Viper's Pit, survive somewhere on site, so you don't give the player advantage up so early. And that's a big ult gone to waste for the side of Vexed. And, I mean, the conversion of the round for the Goose House as well. solid stuff from them. One player that's impressed me, though, is really Mzuru. Solid at the moment on the Sage for the side of the Goose House. And, well, the Goose House seems to quite like B-Long at the moment. It's been working for them the past few rounds. They've elected to go towards that B site. And once again, they head towards B.
Only one player to defend it as well. 2 players on the backup, all coming from the back lines, but it's the exact same setup we saw in the previous round with a lot less firepower from Vex. King Hassel proved that, being removed by Canifis immediately. Spike goes down. Marshall's in the back. Shock Dart will try to get something out for Carter, but Danny evades it. 5v4.
Yeah, really well played there by managing to deal with King House as he tried to push on out. Again, shows that TGH are very heads up about a lot of their plays. Dart's trying to go on in here as Carter wants to try and find a frag, but with the Lear coming, it might be more difficult than he probably expects, especially all this utility sitting and waiting here.
Yeah, Womba combo from Kaiko and Danny. Lear out. Info Dart ready for Carter to try to get some information. Luatan does strike onto Swise at the very least, but now they've got information revealed. 4 versus 4. Canifis can strike back for it. Luatan removed. Carter spots 1 and 2 and 3 now, but only getting away with that 1 pick. Mzu and Kaiko will hold down the line. It's Alex left alone ahead of the toxic screen. Removed by the Goose House. 6-1 now to the attacking board.
Great start, really is, from the side of the Goose House. Although Canifis forced to spike, it doesn't matter. It's only insult to injury, really, for the side of Vex. Yeah, they look really good. They look really, really good here, Jay and Rick. I mean, it's hard to sort of pick apart the things that they're doing wrong because it's not really like they're doing much wrong, to be totally honest with you. I mean, I thought they've executed the site well. They play patiently at times when they need to. I mean, in terms of, what we even saw there, the spike instantly planted just because they backed themselves in, fast-paced engagements. And for Vex, wouldn't surprise me if we see attack timeout come through soon. Jay, I think that was one of the highlights we mentioned in the upper bracket final when they were down and out at times. And, well, their task's got a little bit more tougher as Louis Tan's going to fall to the headshot of Kaiko. And that's numbers advantage here to the Goose House.
Well, the confidence just to go for that kind of aggressive peak so early in and win out. Now Swise will just continue prodding for the Goose House side. Try to spot that second and third player. Information will get gains to the back lanes. Not quite aware of KB's position. Kaiko will at least have the Inco Dart to figure out where that player is. KB backed up in at rafters. Spray through, comes up with a decent frag of his own. We'll be able to get some healing in as well. So 4v4 with some negated damage being done. Kaiko tagged up in minimal amounts. King Hass with the advantage now. Picked up on the Vexed side. Toxic screens will fade and Kaiko trying to hunt for the players around the other side. Meanwhile, Swise gets brought back into the fold. And Alex's operator is hunting for a kill on the outside of the site. The recon dart still coming in for the attacking forces as the spike plant will finally come through.
Yeah, the difference here is that actually we saw a much more time control coming through from Vexed here, and they're able to play to the time that they want. But now it's the time for TGH to get the spike down, and they are finding frags all over the place. It's just Carter left, and what looked like a great round in how they denied that push has fallen apart.
I need to know what Kaiko had for breakfast to warrant this ego on the man, honestly, because he's challenging everything right now and finding kill after kill. Although Carter does find a potential consolation flag, make it 2. It's going to be Mzu who drops 2 versus 1. Can he find Keiko? Nope, the dash going to come through. The swing, the shot. Keiko with the quadra to secure the 7th on the board for the side of the Goose House. And honestly, Vex are finding it very, very hard to cope with the pace of the Goose House right now. The problem that they're going to have, though, is when they make a minor adjustment. For example, if they stack one site, the Goose House is so good at just taking their foot off the gas slightly and just repositioning themselves and changing their own style of play to play that more slower pace and allow the side of Vex to get a little bit impatient. And then that's where you start to see a few pushes come through, and it's an easy frag and an easy pick off for the side of Goose House. And even in that situation, they then gain the first blood and the first pick of the round even still.
Yeah, I actually think the really important thing here is kind of the player you highlighted just now and the thing you said to me before the match. The big matchup which you were kind of looking to kind of compare between the two players was Alex versus Kaiko. And right now, Kaiko is delivering so darn much. And I think his Jet looks more comfortable for him. Yep. He's so much more flexible. While I do love the chamber and it can be very powerful, it is a little bit more, you have to invest a bit more to kind of get it working. Whereas the Jet, well, Kaiko could just do whatever the hell he wants. He's going to dash forward, constantly create space, and that space is what's allowing them to really flex on so many of these rounds in the way that they're just buying so much time. But a good shot here from KB does mean that Keiko and that space might not be created this round.
This is a good opener for the Vex side, but so much more to do, and they've still got weakened weapons to try and do it all in. At least Carter's prodding for more info. Will catch one individual, but not the other two. So, for the most part, the Goose House are protected. Where they're going to go with this? Up through mid, onto the A site. There are options available. Of course, B's already been prodded at. It's unlikely they'll go back there. And indeed, it will be the A play, John.
Yeah, A site. The choice that the Goose House has most definitely chosen. But like I mentioned, so look, I've literally just kind of predicted what the Vex were going to do. Is they try to stamp their dominance, they get a little bit more aggressive, they try to assert their dominance. The Goose House, they just relax a bit with it. They're like, okay, you can take map control. What we'll do is we'll let you guys play the rotation game, and we'll boogie our way onto A side completely free of charge and get a spike plant. It's only going to be Lutan towards the top of Rafters to try and stop any sort of plant. Well, as I say that, the Hunter's Fury are going to come through from Carter, and still, though, with 13 seconds left, the spike only just going to go down. And that's the slider play. There's the impatience that I mentioned. It was Alex who gets picked off by Canifis. It's going to be Lutan, though, still over towards the top of Rafters, trying to find an angle if he can. But the Goose House, they've got the site on lockdown. It's very hard, though. There is one player. I think it's going to be the Sage on the side of...
Oh, that's a brilliant frag. Canifis falling next. Watching for a next. Can't tap through. Eventually gets that triple. Needs a quadra and more. Swise now turns it to a 1 versus 2. Hell, back spray comes up. Carter dropped to the double, not quite the triple. Luatan holds the clutch, and it will be a second round for Vex.
And that game was all KB. That first pick, taking away Kaiko, forces it into a slower round. And yes, it was really great patience coming out from the Goose House. That's pretty much one of their few ways that they can actually pick up that round in that situation. But in that patience, they've given so much time to come on through. And yeah, they actually deal with the flanker. They deal with the player coming for the backstab, but they didn't realize there was a second one coming. And as a result, things started to fall apart. The positions which they held, which they felt comfortable in, were no longer safe. Yep. And as a result, you started to see Vex flood on in and, well, start to frag on out. It was close, but they did still pick it up.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, though, from Swise. I think he finds the first onto the wall, but the barrier ore from the Sage just breaking. And, well, he's going to expose himself to, I think it was Lutan who find the final kill. And Bladestorm, though, invested from Keiko. 5-round deficit here for the side of Vex. And this is such a cheeky spot from Keiko. I really like the updraft peak over the top towards the bottom along in yellow. But if you're Vex here, you're saying, okay, let's at least keep this somewhat of a competitive scoreline going into the second half. We're then going to switch over to the attacking side. They'll back themselves on that. And for Vex, I think any more than 7 here on the board is a real bonus for them. They've looked pretty solid so far in the first half, and wouldn't count them out to at least try and pick up a few more rounds.
Kaiko will lead that charge into the long position. You've got Swise again putting out with the Owl drone, spots one player. Might be unawares of the forward individual though. King Haas trying to hunt for his position. Again, challenging that Bladestorm directly. Slow orb might just catch him. Indeed, it should do so. A little bit of damage being done. Just waiting, info should get picked up. Now they're well aware of the forward man of the Vex side. They'll still look around that corner, still look to pick these players up. The smoke's in will just suppress the Goose House side. And Vex just wait for that contact, wait for that information to clear. Just hold passive for the time being.
Yeah, and the way that TJH are playing right now is going to really keep the side guessing. If you look on your mini map, another player actually is going to rotate. I think it's Carter who's rotated over towards the A site in case they're trying to set a fake here, but they're not. It's MZU who finds the first. Alex gets the trader, goes ahead and rendezvous his way out of trouble, and there is one player that could go huge towards middle of the map, but as I say, that Swise is going to drop. It's Alex. There goes the Viper's Pit. We mentioned Alex needs to step up, and he does just that. Lumiton trades 1 versus 1. And it's going to be KB who finds the kill. Mzuru falls, and that's a huge round for the side of Vex.
Yeah, and it wasn't just the fact that he got the frag. It was who it was on. With that Viper gone, the cover is there, and there is a no facade. They are out in the open, and they are taken down easily. Really well played by Vex, but again, this is kind of the problem, right? The Goose House are playing patient. They're using time well, but sometimes they're pushing the limits a little bit too much, and Vex know that means you're going to have to go. You have so little time to work with now, and if you're going to do that, we're going to be able to jump in at really important junctures and deny it, just like Alex was able to do there. And if we could see more like that from Vex, well, they could easily pick up this map.
Well, pistols pulled out now by the attacking side for one of the very few times over the course of this game we've seen them down on the weapon advantage. And dashing forward, trying to fight fire with fire. Spike plant coming in immediately. Luatan's backed off. Kaiko has no support, but has gotten away with this. Smoke's here to try hide inside of him, and we'll try wrap these corners here. No shots coming in for Kaiko, though. Alex credited with the opening kill, and look at how passive the Goose House are. But it's such an open plant that it still might work here. They can't even see it. Hunter's Fury brought out by the attackers, still firing on that spike position. Carter finally comes up with a good kill towards Danny. KB with a frag back on Canifis, and there's 2 left. A Shockdar will try and suppress them here. It catches damage to kill for Mzu, and they're still holding it. Mzu's got a comment with a flank, but no, the spike defuse just gets held together. They get so much out of this round, but it's not a round for the Goose House.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's unfortunate for the Goose House. I mean, you can see what they wanted to do. They wanted to try and get Keiko onto site as quickly as possible, play the afterplants, for example, with the snake bites of Canifis and the shock darts from Swise with the Hunter's Fury, but I think, the side of Vex, they did a great job. They actually used the Sage Wall to block any potential Molly lineup from the Snake Bite, although the Shock Darts do get through and take down one in the end, and I believe it was King Haas who fell, but unfortunately for MZubu, although he clicks heads, he just couldn't find the shots in quick enough time as the Spike Diffusal comes through. But look at Louis Tana. For a second I thought he was going to try and cross, but he would have been spotted by the Shock Dart. As we are at a 3-round deficit here, as we are in our final round of the first half in this map 1 of the best of 3, the grand final between the Goose House and Vexed. And you got to say, finally though, Vex starting to show a little bit of momentum.
Yep, been very hardly pushed back for the most of that part in this map up. Have been having a difficult time about holding their own defensive line, and now with an opportunity available to make this a 5th, they could still go into that attacking half with a bit of decency. So the Tour de Force brought out, of course. Viper's Pit also at the ready for the defensive line, only a res available for the attackers. Danny leans in first and foremost. Again, as passive on this A site as you would expect it. There will be Viper's Pit popped out towards the B site. It's Luitan on A with the 2 strikes on Danny and Kaiko.
Oh, that's exactly what you want to see. And we were talking about before about how consistent this guy is. He delivers when it matters, and well, it's mattering right now. This could bring that deficit to only 2 rounds and, well, make it much, much, much more manageable. But right now, Canifis is looking for that opening pick and trying to find them away onto this site with a great frag to kick things off.
Yeah, and now the toxic screens go out, counteracted by the defensive side the same. MZu brings one back, so it's back to a 4 versus 4. KB in the backside has also got a chance to res. The Shock Darts coming in, the smokes come out. A flank angle, unchecked. Spike dropped. KB credited with the kill. Backups arrive. Carter does get overwhelmed, and Swise looks to the back lines, wraps that corner, trying his best to look for KB, who makes it a triple. And King Haas comes in with the support to close the half of Vex, down by 2, but 7-5 for the Goose House.
KB going so huge for the team right there, and I'm not too sure who it was. I think it was Canifis who had the spike right initially. I could confirm you, an Iron player will sit in that corner. Right through Iron up to Radiant, someone will sit in that corner. It's one of the most default corners in the game. You have to be clear in that before you try and get a spike plant. I mean, even if you get a recon dart or an owl drone towards the backside, obviously they were a little bit pushed for time and they couldn't probably use too much util, but you have to check it as a default corner, and, well, unfortunately they don't, and they do concede the round, but that's really off the back of a huge 3k from KB to shut down any sort of extra players on the pushing on towards the site. And you know what? After the first 8 or so rounds, when it was sitting at 7 rounds to 1, gentlemen, I don't think you would have said that the side of Vex would have much chance going into this second half. It looked comfortable, it looked calm and collected from the side of the Goose House, but unfortunately for them, Vexed. They didn't need that tactical timeout to reset their mentality. They did it within the game, and all of a sudden, they string a few rounds together, and they're looking a lot better now going into their attacking half.
Yeah, honestly, I think TGH thought they were in a better position than they were. They were starting to really get the ball rolling, yes, but you're not playing against any sort of slouches. I think Vex really understood that TGH were looking to play really late rounds, and as a result, we're looking to delay as well. And that puts the Goose House in a really difficult position where they basically have to make very snap decisions. And I think while they do have a lot of very skilled players and who I do genuinely think make really great decisions most of the time, in their haste, they misplace like some really basic stuff, like, for example, not checking that corner. Like, for a couple of examples here where they haven't been holding the angles as someone from Vex pushes out, and Alex has been able to play spoiler. KB has been able to play spoiler. The flanks have not been dealt with properly because they're rushing on in, because there isn't much time left. They don't have these opportunities to play low and slow in these times when you would want to, because they're spending so much time to try and actually get the round going.
And one thing I can say is, I mean, I don't know if the viewers at home can catch it. I know the viewers here and ourselves can catch it, but the pure energy now that has all of a sudden started to come out of this Vex lineup. The first couple rounds or so, it was very, negative body language, heads were down, heads were in hands, but now all of a sudden, I think one thing in particular I mentioned is the vocal point of Hasid, not only as an in-game leader, but as a coach. I mentioned this to you yesterday on the upper bracket finals. This Vex team is a huge team that play based off momentum. When things are going right, and the likes of Louis Tan, the likes of KB, for example, Carter and Alex now as well on the lineup, when they can start to pop off and they really start to feel themselves, it's vital, and it's a key factor as to how good Vex are playing. And right now, everything seems to be clicking.
Well, at the turn of the half, we have got a tech pause on the Vex side, which might break that momentum, as you mentioned, John. I kind of wanted to prod you because you have played in teams before. So in terms of tech issues, in terms of having this little bit of downtime where you're focused on something other than the game, like how do you think that affects the mentality for the likes of Vex?
I think, I think it could probably actually buy into to what they want to do. I mentioned, the momentum in terms of, you know, having a positive mental going into games, but this could probably, you know, sometimes having too much of an overhyped momentum could probably work as your worst factor as well, because you start to get a little bit too overconfident, you start to wide swing, you start to overpeak, and then, you know, when you're playing against the likes of Keiko, MZU, all of the players on the Goose House who can find your head within a pixel, it can sometimes work against you. But, you know, I think in particular when they've got the likes of Hass, who is such a well-seasoned player within Valorant in terms of an in-game leader, I think he'll be saying, look, it doesn't matter if there's a tech pause going on right now. It doesn't matter if there was a tactical pause going on right now. We know that we have the beaten at the moment off the side of the Goose House. We have their number, you know. And for them, I think it's fortunate that it's a tech pause and not a tactical timeout for the side of Goose House. Because if it was a tactical timeout that the Goose House had taken, that would only buy into Vex, because Vex would know that they're worried. That's the reason why they took this timeout. So I think for the side of Vexed, they've got to just try and keep that momentum building, you know, not get too, though, overconfident, because when that starts to happen, okay, yeah, you might find a few extra kills, but what's the worth in finding a 3K at the start of the round just from ego peeking, just to then die and give side control completely back to the other team, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's kind of something that always plays into King Hassan and how he likes to play the game. Very disciplined squad. They are a structured team. The way they call strats is all based around what they do in practice. Yeah. You can see it in the way they approach a lot of their attacks, and I think we're obviously going to get to see it this half. I'm really interested to see just how much they're going to have in the bank, because Icebox is obviously a map we've seen a lot over the course of this tournament, but I haven't seen too much of it from Vexed yet, at least personally. I haven't got to watch too much of it, and where I have, it's been against teams who aren't quite at the same caliber as the Goose House. And, you know, looking at that, I think this discipline is going to be very important, because, as you said, if you move forward, you will get your head taken off by the Goose House players, and I think King Hass can really reset their team and kind of chill them out and make sure that some of these younger players don't just go balls to the wall.
Yeah, well, we are going to be heading back into the game relatively soon. That 30-second timer has begun to once again count down its way to 0 as we head into the second half. First map, though, so far, gentlemen, you've got to say it's everything that we've asked for. We knew these two teams. We had a bit of a teaser yesterday, myself and you, Jay, and we was really impressed, in particular with the first map, Haven, between these two sides. Breeze was a little bit more of a one-sided affair. But so far, this grand final delivering on every aspect that we want. You're talking about two teams, two organisations that are so well respected within the UK community, and if not the European community of Valorant as well. But vital, though, for Vex here that they pick up this pistol, because if so, they can really start to get the ball rolling on the attacking side.
And the main forces of both sides will clash directly. Little do they know about that. You can see them and the toxic screens. When will they clear? Right about now. It's Alex with a double. Kaiko and Canafis get two on the way back out, and Kaiko's hunting for more. Alex says no. Jumps rounds the corner and makes it a 3 versus 2. Swice hunting for a little bit more, all the same. Black's turn, though, missing out on one player. Carter spotted them both. Taps up the headshot, gets the kill, looks for the double up, and secures the round for Vex.
I can almost confirm to you that Vex knew exactly how TGH was going to play that pistol round. Almost every single time, the way TGH play a pistol round on Icebox is they either send 3 towards mid and 2 towards B long, and they set up a pinch on either side. You can tell exactly that Vex knew what they were going to do, and the fact that they've gone away and looked at the way that they play Icebox over the past few days. They allow 3 players to push up long, 1 player towards mid, 1 player towards A, and then from there it all comes down to Alex with that Headhunter doing just that, finding a 3K of his own. Carter cleans up the rest. And now we're going to see Vex pick up those Spectres, and probably for the first time, although it's not a numbers advantage in terms of the round count, but in terms of weaponry and a big advantage in the game, this is the first time they've probably had it throughout the whole time.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and they should be able to leverage this really well, especially with how good they've been looking over the past couple of rounds here. As long as they don't slip up and get caught on some of the angles in their haste, it should all be good. But they lose one to Kaiko here, and that could bode well for the Goose House.
The pistol's got the advantage, and Kaiko's looking for a bit more. Needs a bit of HP, but Swice their back up. Luaton finally there with a trade, but MZU comes up decent. King has the trade, but in a 1v3 scenario for him, makes it a double. Needs to hold that triple, but it does not come through. The Goose House get a thrifty steal.
Oh, I'm shaking my head, gentlemen. I really am. Yeah. It's so many times we've seen it, Jay and Rook. So many times this weekend when you've got the likes of the Spectres, or even you're in a great spot on a bonus and you throw the round. And I mean, Canafis, I don't want to say I agree with you, my friend, but I definitely do. As you just gotta be better in that situation. You really, really do. I think You got to realise that, okay, you've got Spectres, but you've got the likes of MZU and Keiko who are clicking heads with Sheriffs. You can't get too aggressive. Just play a little bit more default, find the first pick, and then you can explode onto the site from there. But, Alex, you are insane with a Headhunter. See you later, MZU, as his bags are packed.
He's got like so many highlights on that weapon throughout the course of this tournament. The jumping headshot, the through the smokes, the through the toxic screens and everything. going his way to kick things off on the right foot. Wallbang's even coming in close from Kaiko, not quite landing on a frag as the Goose House try their best to strike back, Rogue.
Wow, an eco round win into potentially an eco win round win back, because they have got so much control over this site. But do keep in mind, Danny still has that rifle in hand, and so do the rest of the team.
Yeah, 4 versus 4 situation thanks to Danny's efforts. Watching onto the site, it's Carter. Hell with the spike position, tagged 10 points of health and overwhelmed Macanafis in the end. A 4 versus 3 as Kaiko hunts for a bit more. Danny is able to make it 2 players standing now for the Vex side. Luatan can't quite deny despite the fuse. King Cash will try and get the position as Luatan gets picked up, the taps forward, unable to get much out of this, and it will be 9 to the board of the defense.
Yeah, I mean, for the side of the Goose House, you want to say pretty standard stuff, but after the first shot from Alex, he was like, oh dear, here we go, we're in for a highlight reel of the second half, aren't we here, gentlemen? But, I mean, what really probably should have been a round advantage for the side of the Vex lineup, the Goose House, well, after the successful eco, they convert their rifle round as well, and now heading into the first full buy round across the board for both Vex and the Goose House here in the second half of map 1. It's now really, Vex, they've got to try and, conjure up that momentum that they found towards the end of the half. You mentioned, Jay, is that tech pause going to sort of derail that motivation ever so much slightly? And, well, right now, it's on them once again to try and answer the questions that the Goose House are throwing their way.
Yeah, I actually really like this from the Goose House in the way that they kind of said, okay, they know how we play. They know what we're thinking about. So let's try something a little different. Let's go for something a little cheeky. And they make it work, honestly. Really good play to shut that one down with the pistols. And it was down to individual play as well, absolutely. But this again shows that the Goose House have so many killers in so many different roles who are constantly ready to deliver. And you can't disrespect them if you don't have even if you have the eco advantage, you're going to fall down. And the fact that they're consistent enough to not then throw the subsequent round right back shows just how good the Goose House are.
This early round has been very slow stuff from them. Same thing for the Vex side, who are back up on the weapons. Where are they going to go with this, though? They've got to be careful not to concede another great round like they just lost there. 9-6, 3 rounds in deficit, and the Goose House start closing on the victories. Toxic screens set up towards that A site. And rotations will be called in a little bit slowly. They've only got Danny to defend on this one. It's Alex there to get the kill on the headshot, starting things off on the right foot. Is there more ahead of them? Canafis will try and be able to deny with the snake bite. Spike is on site. Needs to get planted relatively soon here. They're running out of time, and they're running out of breathing room.
The Goose House trying to hold strong, but the spike here is going to end up going down. So, numbers advantage for the attackers. They've got the tour de force as well, should Alex want to invest it. Upon the retake, there's only going to be the Blade Storm available in terms of ult economy. Swise, though, does get a little bit of information, does get tagged up by the Recon Dart himself. And Mzuru, the run and gun, the spray, the prey, the 2K from Mzuru to find the kills. Swise drops Carter, making a 3K. Canafis finds Alex. And just like that, the Goose House... I've said this so many times across the board this weekend. The Goose House, they have that nastiness in them to say that, okay, if we guys want to give you a little bit of hope, you guys can plant the spike. It doesn't matter. We'll wait until the final tick of the spike needed before we can pick it up, and then we'll explode onto the site. And it almost feels like at any point, when they want to win a round, they'll just take the round out of the clasp of your hands. And, for the side of Vex, it's got to be heartbreaking. They do so good. They get onto the site, they find the first, they get the spike plant. They're in decent after plant positions as well. But when you've got Mzuru just run and gun in with the likes of a Spectre, it's got to be upsetting for the side of Vex. It really does.
He's giving me those callbacks and throwbacks to those crackhead Jet days that we always used to see from him. I mean, honestly, it's great to see he can still evoke that, honestly, here over on the Sage, which is so important, obviously, to this map. Love the fact that the Goose House just managed to make that retake happen because, as you said, it was pretty out of nowhere. Vex looked like they were in control, but it all falls apart because they get bombarded by pieces of utility. And then, well, in that juncture, in that so important position, is Mzuru swinging around, making the play, and you've got so many playmakers on this team. Pretty much every single one of these players can push forward and do something. They can entry, they can do that. The flexibility on this squad kind of manifests itself in very interesting and very useful ways, obviously, if you're a Goose House fan, as they easily manage to find their way on in, despite all of the difficulties they should have been facing.
It doesn't really feel like many difficulties when you take a look at those numbers. Emzu on 21 frags so far in this matchup, and a lot of those came in on that particular retake. But when you come to talk about the consistency of certain elements, obviously we're looking at Vex and how they have Luatan. Seems like Emzu's the guy for this particular match. Yeah,
and I think that's the benefit of having someone that's as good at aimer like Emzu is on the likes of a Sage, for example. I mean, we mentioned that he, originally and traditionally used to play that fast-paced duelist role on the likes of Jet, but since changing over and, you know, I guess relinquishing the role to Kaiko. I don't think you can really you know, blame him for that. But, you know, having a Sentinel player or even a controller player, Alex, you've got to be hitting those on a role like that. It's really, really useful. But for the side of Goose House, they are obviously just 3 rounds away here for taking map number 1 in the grand final. And for the side of Vexed, it's just starting to slowly but surely start to come apart here. And you've got to think, in the next few rounds, they've got to try and do something to break the momentum of the Goose House, or they can start to run away with it.
Well, if they've got the information now, that Tour de Force have missing 2 bullets out of the 5 available to them. That's not going to be a very good sign for Alex. Needs to hit this next one and not even going to get a chance to do so. Tour de Force removed. No ultis left for the attacking side. Emzu kicks things off again.
I want you guys to know that Alex is really good with the Operator and with the Tour de Force. It just isn't going his way so far today. It's sad to see, and Kaiko will look to try and get some Operator action of their own, but I believe that later on we could see a little bit more from him, like we're seeing from Kaiko right now.
Yeah, 3 players now standing. The Pistols will try and make their way into this B site. Held back with a spike on their backs as well. King Haas just tapping. There's the Operator again for Kaiko. Picking up Carter. Danny at the outside does catch a decent kill. KB with 1 to respond, but 4 more to get in what would be the full-on ace clutch. It's just not going to happen. Kaiko with a triple. 11 now to the board of the Goose House. 2 to go.
I think the Goose House, they're slowly but surely starting to slip into 5th gear here, Rook. I think they're looking so much more comfortable on this defensive half than, you know, I mean, I would say than they did on the attacking half, but they strung 7 rounds together at the start, so they must have been quite comfortable on that as well, right? But yeah, I think they've just sort of elevated and took it up a gear and up a notch here on the defensive half of the Goose House. You can see Mzuru, Keiko really leading the way. But one player I think that's sort of gone under the radar a little bit is probably Swise and Canifis. I don't think we talk about them too much. I mean, I know we highlighted Swise a lot yesterday in that game we saw where he was really fragging off. I think he went like 15 and 3 or something like that. But this game, him and Canifis doing the dirty work, picking up the assists, using the util needed to get him onto the site. Like 16 assists in a game of Valorant is a lot of assists.
No, it just shows how good this team is at playing together. That's always the thing you have to keep in mind when you're watching the Goose House right now. And I mean, obviously, if you can pick off important members, it's normally really impactful, but everyone's important and everyone can frag, and Danny is showing that with aplomb.
Removing these rifles from play, making it a triple with just the individual peaks and picks going his way. 1v1's offered up to the Goose House as Canifis picks up Carter, and King Hash just wondering how on earth he's found himself in this position. A 1v5. The toxic screens fall in, the spike has fallen on the site. Now there's 3 players to try and deal with the individuals. The recon bolt will now give away his position. The Lear's out. All sorts of players going to wrap this corner, and it will be a quadra for Danny. Confident as anything, screams ringing out across the stage. And then the Goose House, they have every right to its map points.
And look at how different in the body language from the Goose House is now. We were speaking a minute ago at the break of the half. It was the Goose House that was the ones that were looking a little bit dejected after losing 4 or 5 rounds in a row. It was Vexed that the ones that were hyped. They were like we're going into this new half. Let's go. We can do this. And now the side from Vex, they're very, very quiet. They look like a beaten and a broken team at the moment. And for the Goose House, they're just 1 round away, like you said, Jay, from picking up map number 1 here. Although, you've got to say credit where credit is due. It is, of course, one of their favourite maps, one of their best maps in their maps pool, so it doesn't really shock me too much, but it's just purely off the fact that they're backing themselves in every engagement in. Keiko, once again, is he going to spot one? Oh, Keiko, he's going to spot Carter, finds the first with the up.
Removes that Hunter's Fury from play and everything. King Haas providing covering fire against Swise. Unfortunately for Vex, they have a res back in. The Carter can get back in play. So a 5v5 in this situation, Rob.
Yeah, really nicely done to pick that one up. The confidence was massive, and they made it work. The res comes through, obviously, so it's no massive advantage, but they've already wasted a bunch of those ults on the Viper's Pit, invested on the other side, importantly here, but they are committing towards this B site, it looks like.
Danny Empress has been pulled out, looking for a kill against the likes of Carter once again. They will get information on the Vex side. Wrapped slowly from Alex as they will be able to overwhelm Danny, remove that Empress from play. Advantage now sits to the favour of the Vex side, with Alex also on the flanks here. I have 1 player top tube over Swise, desperate for sprays. Alex needs to come up with a kill. Kaiko now removes. Swise needs to get trades alongside Emzu, who does get one of the turn, and the spike can go down. Pistol, trying to see if he can deny, but Swise is a little bit late to the party. party out of ammo. Emzu brings one back. We're back to a 4 versus 4. And the Goose House start pressing on to the site, looking for this retake. Backed up by Vex. They're holding a passive line. There are considerations for a flank. They're just going to press forward towards it with Viper's Pit brought out by King Hass as well. Advantages start swinging the way of Vex so dearly. Tap on the defuse. Then Emzu with the kill. Rats in, looks for a triple. Does land it. Carter picked up one. Lewitan with another. Canifis still sticking it. And there's Kaiko with 2 more to secure it at 13-6 for the Goose House. Map 1, their pick of Icebox goes their way.
I was literally just about to say, I don't know why Hass has not invested the Viper's Pit. I think as soon as that plant goes down, as soon as you get healed back up, you've got to pop that Viper's Pit. It's the last round of the game otherwise, if not. But you can't allow yourself to die almost instantaneously after popping it. And guess what? Who are there again when the side needs someone to pop off? It's Emzu and it's Kaiko. Really the dynamic duo, you could say, of this grand final so far. And for Vex, I mean, there was glimpses, there were times in that game, in particular after winning the pistol on the second half. And you were thinking, okay, this is going to be a very tight affair here on Icebox. But as soon as I'm, used the phrase of the Goose House just slipping into the next gear, it looked like it was cruise control, and they steamrolled it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. They really did manage to kind of understand exactly what was making Vex tick and forced them into some really unfavorable scenarios. Thank you for the lights, guys. I'm honestly really impressed by the way they managed to actually regain their composure, because it did look like Vex were starting to get some control on that map. But it is their map, they know what they're doing, and they did a great job of it. I'm interested to see how this next map goes, because despite obviously it being Vex pick, and I do think it's a good pick for them, it can be a little bit difficult sometimes to play this map as a very structured team, because everybody plays this map. A lot of puggy teams can go very, very hard, and that could be a problem for Vex on the next map. But it is theirs, they are a good team, and they managed to show that even when they're under pressure, they can still deliver. I just want to see more glimpses of hope, honestly, from players like Alex, who really didn't have a very great game, and I know he can deliver on things like the Chamber.
Well, it is characteristic to how that series yesterday went down, with a map being won out by the boys over from the Goose House. A solid win for them, a one-sided win. The question is, can they make it close with Vex? Can they take their own map pick? It will be Ascent. It's coming up after the break. Well, Icebox had Vexed feeling a little bit frozen as they went down 13-6 on the opposing map pick. The Goose House side won it pretty confidently, and again, that is characteristic for what happened in yesterday's series. Their map pick went great, the second map went close, and now we're off to Ascent. It is the pick of the Vex side, John.
Yeah, it's a map that both sides are probably, I wouldn't say the strongest on, but they're also not the weakest on at the same time. It's sort of that neutral probably ground. I think in terms of teams that I've probably seen play more and play better on it, I'd probably favour Vexed in this one, hence why I went for the 2-1. But either way, if the first map is anything to go by, it's going to be a tough task for Vexed to break the momentum of the Goose House. They looked pretty comfortable and in control of the game 90% of the time. I think it was only sort of the slight wobble they had towards the end of the first half where I think we saw Vexed pick up, I think, 5 or 6 rounds in quick succession. But, well, we're heading into Ascent, into the Agent Select, expecting the standard stuff, the likes of the Astra to come out, maybe a Killjoy Cypher here or there. Chamber also very usable on this map, but we do tend to see a different Sentinel like Killjoy be used. Of course, we're going to have a Sage and the likes of a Sova involved as well. One thing to mention, though, on this side of Vex, they actually have KO in their team comp on Luitan. Sometimes we would see, you know, the likes of a double Sentinel lineup with the likes of a Killjoy and a Sage, and then pretty much the usual lineup we'll see on a map like Ascent is pretty much the lineup that the Goose House are running, but they elect to run the extra Initiator, and Luitan, I mean, we saw him play yesterday on this map, and he looked very, very good on the KO. He's a very good KO, very talented player, and I think it could be him who could be instrumental in terms to pick up the weight. I think he struggled a little bit in the first map to try and get the ball rolling here for the Vex side.
I mean, he did a fine job. He didn't really stand out. He's always going to provide that baseline level of fragging, of utility to the team, and I think Luitan definitely delivered on that in that map. But I think here, as you're saying, on the KO, I'm really excited for that because I think he's honest, well, obviously the best KO in the tournament is my straight up honest opinion, and he's so good on this map in terms of gaining information, playing around on that A site, setting up flashes as well, like kind of pushing out into gain mid control. So I love seeing that happen, and also with the extra Initiate, it means you can be a little bit more aggressive. And now that they're no longer stuck on the chamber, I think his team has a lot more ability to be dynamic, and you can set up flashes. Obviously with the KO, play with the Jet. It's not quite Breach, but it still functions in a similar manner. It could bring you so much power, especially when you're looking to crack open a site, and in the way that the Goose House so far have been able to shut down a lot of these important pushes.
Well, here we are then, boys. Map 2 of the grand finals. Vex need to take a win if they want to try and maintain their lives and take us to map 3. It's Carter that will look to try and start things off. Canopus taking the early damage, trying to hold back on this A site. Execution comes in effective and efficiently. They have suppressed one individual. Back at Dark. Decent damage done by Canopus. No kills found. The spike will go down.
Yeah, it's going to be easy plant for the side of Vex. There's player advantage and post-plant advantage, you could say. There are 4 players, though, for the side of the Goose House, still standing and standing strong. You've got 2 towards Short and Treat, and you've got 2 towards the top of Heaven. But this post-plant positioning, though, for the side of Vex, so good and so strong. I think the pot flash will come through. It's going to be an easy kill for Carter. He finds the first. Alex drops Swise. Carter should really find the second over towards Treat. Well, they know where Keiko is now, and it should be quite a straightforward standard round number 1 win for the side of Vex as Luitan cleans that up. And I really like that, a confident start from Vex. They used the KO util well in terms of the 0 point to shut down the Astra, which was going to be Canopus to, you know, stop any extra smokes going down, any concussives, any gravity wells to stop them advancing onto the site. They execute perfectly, they get control, they find the kills, and they find the first round hit.
Yeah, really well played, honestly. Again, I want to highlight, Luitan is one of my favourite players to watch in this tournament, and you see exactly why they're running so much utility, also being able to move forward and frag. Now, Goose House kind of obviously want to take a slightly slower tack with their composition, with the Sage especially on Danny. Again, pointing out that they are flexing around a lot of different roles. And Zulu no longer on that Sage, moved over to the Sova, and they're obviously happy with that. They're very comfortable in playing pretty much anything, and that gives this Goose House squad an ability to play some more interesting comps and more, you know, standard comps, even though they don't necessarily have the exact players that they would normally want for it.
Slow and passive again for the attacking forces. Happy to sit back and wait for the time being. KB will start to make the moves in here from the short position. We'll check out angles, but not see anything as of right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a site pretty much uncontested and free of charge here for the side of Vex. There's the 4 stack towards Beat, just the solo player of Canopus in towards Pizza and Market. So as soon as this 0 point gets the info that there's no one on site, the players are going to get the spike down as quickly as possible, set up for that after plant. Would like to see Louis probably jump up in towards Heaven here and try and gain some sort of control over the defensive side, the CT side of the map. But for the defenders, they are going to try and all hit through towards mid and B main. They're going to be met though by the Marshal in the hands of Alex. It's going to be Canifis who drops first. And, well, cruise control here really in this round, or it should be, should I say, for the side of Vexters. Alex is going to, unfortunately, miss the second shot he takes with the Marshal, but you got to say here, surely, gentlemen, Vex can start off with 2 a lead.
Most likely, yeah. Not very much that they can do. The Pistols will try their best and try and push forward and try and get something out of this round. If they can get any damage, that'll be nice, but damage is the best thing you're sort of hoping for here. Spraystu catching something onto someone. Carter eventually will fall to the hands of Enzu. Danny there traded back. KB and Luatan doubling up as a piece, and that is a 2-0 start, as you mentioned, for the Vex side.
Yeah, no, really well played it yet again. They play it low and slow, don't mess around, don't get caught off guard, and obviously they made the right call in going to the A site. That was kind of a 50-50 in terms of whether you were going to run into that stack or not, and fortunately doesn't go the way of the Goose House there. But you have to think about the fact that Vex are very happy to put that utility in anyway, and if they spotted that there were going to be 3 or 4 people, because obviously Luatan is there with the knife, which is so relevant, and they've also got a Sova to back it up, you were always going to know, and you were going to be able to make that pick happen, make that decision between the 2 sites, and then easily execute onto the one without any players. And likely they would have shut it down anyway. These guys are pretty solid when it comes to denying these eco rounds, as long as they're being as diligent as they need to be, and Cass can keep them in proper shape.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the side of Vex, they're on the bonus, of course. Spectre's in hand. Mzu, we're going to try and get a little bit of any information with the Owl drone, and he does spot Alex for his worries. I want to say, though, on Ascent bonus rounds, you know, with the Spectres, it's very winnable. There are a lot of close quarter angles, in particular when you go towards A to try and clear out short and catwalk into tree as well, and even the close corners on the site and towards wide and under heaven and hell. So, I mean, you got to say, very winnable round here for the side of Vex. And oh, look at Louis' position already. He's going to catch Keiko. No way he expects the player to be here. It doesn't even matter because KB's there. The swing comes through from Louis. It's fantastic stuff from the duo of Vexed.
5 versus 3 situation. They have got defensive still sat here for the Goose House side. Canifis in particular is waiting for contact. There are smokes down, flashed out. Luatan drops in and removes another player from play. Now 2 left standing as the Vex side definitely look confident. Enzu, however, wants to try and change the narrative. Gets at least 1 pick. A teammate in towards short will pop open the doors. The plant will go down, and Enzu's just trying to hunt for some sort of frag back here. I don't think it's going to happen for them. I think that's a safe call.
Yeah, it has to be a save, 100% for the Goose House. You have to save the Vandals into the next round. And, well, that's the exact start, ladies and gentlemen, at the side of Vex game and wanted into this first half of Ascent. They successfully win the pistol. They pick up the Spectres, win the second round and the bonus round pretty comfortably as well, converted for the side of Vex. And the Goose House, well, they're going to force probably to at least concede 1 more round here, as it's only going to be 2 rifles in the hands of Danny and Mzu. No doubt the other 3 players will probably just save up and maybe buy a Sheriff at the worst case scenario. But for the side of Vexed, that's the momentum kick on that they want here, Jay, to kick things off in at least this first half. They can't afford to have as bad a start. I don't think it's possible for them to have a better start in this first half than they did in Icebox. So a convincing 3-0 start for them on their map pick. And that's exactly what they want, to try and start building that momentum for the rest of the map.
Absolutely. I actually really like, again, I'm sorry to keep on harping on about him, but I do like Luatan on this KO because he plays it like a duelist. Constantly clearing space, pushing up. And honestly, I don't blame him, because when I first saw this agent, I didn't realize it was an initiator. I thought it was a duelist. And he's showing exactly why, flashing for himself consistently, using that fragment as well to push people out of corners. And the 0 point means you have a heads up, so you know where the players are coming, and you're forcing them into a position where they can't use their utility to just, you know, win the duel. They have to out-aim you, and against Luatan, that's no mean feat.
Into the 3-0 start, as you would expect here. The Vex side definitely have control. Carter again going to try and play the early entries in over on the A site. Kaiko set with the pistols out. The lack of overall weaponry should be a bit of a hindrance to the Goose House in this particular round. Again, it's still slow and still passive and careful from Vex.
Well, this is the mistakes that they've learned from the end of the first map, right? I think we saw a round where it was on the actual bonus round, where or on their pistol round, where they went too rushing, they went full steam ahead, and it was the pistols of the side of the Goose House that really was the you know, the momentum changer and the shift factor in that second half. And well, it's nice to see them elect to be a bit more slower paced and try and play a little bit, still play defaulty, right? Just try and play for a pick. Yeah. So sort of X defaults on this map is they do like to send someone towards CT. Usually it is the likes of Alex. He's going to probably spot one. It's going to be Canifis towards CT. Bit of a crossfire though with his other player. I think it's Mzu. I don't think he's going to be looking that direction. However, it's going to be Alex though. Can he find the first? Canifis swings. Canifis finds the dink. Canifis finds the kill. Got to be hitting those, Alex.
Yeah, unsuccessful in that kill count. KB is going to try and take the position and try and kind of flank in. Emzu might not be quite as aware of this as he might expect it. Time starting to tick away on this Vex side as they continue pushing forward. Luatan now suppressed behind smoke, still spraying through at the platform, flashing forward. We'll see nothing at all. Another flashbang comes forward as Kaiko gets another good kill back with the pistols. KB forced to respond. 13 seconds. That spike is on B, and Danny has potential with a battle in hand. Spray's not quite good enough. Emzu at least keeps the advantage for the defensive side. The spike plant should be secure. The shock dart comes down. That should be able to do some damage. Luatan is low, so it rests entirely on King Haas to try and hold this round.
Yeah, King Haas holding the angle right now, and Kaiko could easily push into that one. The Recon Dot tries to find some info, but they don't have it. Some very low health players, and they will go down to Kaiko with the Spectre here. They're going to upgrade to that rifle, push in again, and King Haas doesn't have the time. Easily done. And the Goose House as well, playing that really well, enforcing the time to be used so that when they start to move on in, they just lose those players. And that mid pick from KB, that mid pick onto... Words are escaping me. That mid pick onto Alex was so important to come out here from Canifis and basically shifted the entire round.
Well, yeah, it's not only that. It's just I mentioned, you know, sometimes when you've got the superior weaponry, you can try and force the upper hand, probably a little bit too much, and it's exactly what Vex did. I like the fact that he did try to gain map control, but if you're Alex there, it's quite a standard default shot to try and hit. You know, he's going to be in towards CT somewhere, and you can't allow that one player to pick up. Yeah, it has. It's a big mistake. I mean, it's especially on a player like Alex. We highlight who's of course replacing, you know, Lear in the squad on the Jet as the main duelist, the main entry point in terms of the kill department. Got to be doing better there. But well, Alex wants a second bite at the cherry as once again does head towards mid, but the alarm bot there to spot him out this time though.
He's getting the information out for the defensive line. Alex is going to get forced away as once again they play the mid default, popping open that barrier orb. Lose the barrier of the orb. Kaiko now pushing forward himself, trying to look towards the main entrance. Spots one player, good headshot, not quite the second. Carter instead returns with two. There was a player behind Kaiko. Canifis goes falling the same, and Carter now just blocks out any rotations. It'll be a 4v3 as they take the A sites.
Yep, really nice push on in here that should be setting up for this one. They've got players back in towards Wine, and they're also contesting out at mid here. If KB wins this is very impactful, but has to move away from it. And again, TGH, they do not move alone. They hunt in packs, and they find a very important frag here, and now they can start to make their execute.
3 versus 3, the suppressed one with the KO knives, a flashbang forward into the short control. Alex is going to sit in the corner and wait, and Swice will start to move forward as well. Teammate of Danny will check outside corner, but they're not going to find that angle just yet. I think noise being made as Hunter's Fury comes out from the defensive line. They find a spray, but Alex and Carter hold the trades. Emzu does get Luatan to drop. 10 seconds, the revive can come through, but the teammate's too far away, so it's expected to be a 1 versus 1, but that spike's way too far. Ticked here for Emzu. Will try tap it once, try force that player out, but there's no chance in hell. This will be a 4th round for Vexed.
Yeah, solid stuff from Vexed, and it comes off the fact of as soon as they find the first pick and the first entry point, they just collapse onto the site so well. And I like the fact that they do spend a lot of time and one player towards short and in towards garden or tree to just to act as the nuisance. It doesn't matter there if he dies, to be totally honest with you. You get the information that one's towards mid, two's towards tree, and okay, you're thinking, well, of course the last one's going to probably be up towards heaven, right? So, I mean, sometimes it's not all about surviving in those type of situations. It's just about gaining info, and that's exactly what the solo player of Vexed, I think it was KB towards short, did. And the Goose House, though, back down once again to those Sheriffs, and we're starting to see finally on the side of Vex that economy really start to build.
Oh, Bladestorm brought out, and aggressive players in from Kaiko, dashes up draft, can't quite get the kills for it. Canifis and Emzu there to bail out, but King Haas and Alex chime in with their rifles. Emzu and Canifis chime in with their pistols instead, and it's Carter alone 1 versus 3. Spots at least one, gets that lineup, doesn't quite get the casualty for it, and Emzu's behind harder cover, so it's got to be a bit of a deeper play from the lone attacking player. Spotted out now, tagged in by the Recon Bolt, and surely from here there should be a counter play available for the Goose House.
The distraction Bladestorm works out well for them. I know you're probably mad you didn't get the shots, but the rest of the team delivered with the pistols. And again, you cannot be sleeping on the Goose House. Every single one of these players is armed and deadly, even with those Sheriffs. Able to do so darn much here and likely pick them up a chance to take this round. Obviously, Spike could be honored here, but actually getting that down could be easier said than done. And getting into that position might be very difficult into 2 players who are holding the angle together. The first one goes down. Can he move into more?
1v1 with a Cosmic Divide as well, committed to try and win out this particular clutch. Try get the spike back if possible. It's on the other side of it though. How's Carter going to play this? Barrier orb, no. Dealt with by the last player. Canifis with a triple. Holds it down for the 2nd round.
Yeah, so close from Carter. You got to say he played it almost pitch perfectly, to be honest with you. The investment of the Cosmic Divide was correct. He just had to sort of roll the dice, 50-50 chance as to whether or not that Canifis was going to peek from the angle that he pulled him with the gravity well from. Unfortunately, he doesn't. Misses the shots, and then Canifis converts the kill. But even there, though, you got to say, again, how many times have we seen this Vex lineup just throw away rounds that are pretty much free from them? And literally all it took them was Kaiko to pop an updraft with the Bladestorm and completely distract 3 players from of the Vex lineup. And from there, the Sheriffs are not going to miss at close range, and it's a round converted for the side of the Goose House. And, well, speaking of converting kills, Kaiko, once again, is going to open the fragging for the side of the Goose House. The operator in his hands, really such a solid player to have that operator in the hands of. Of course, the operator Jet combination, really since Bait has been the staple of competitive Valorant here, especially within the European region as well. But Vex, though, look like they are going to try and head over towards the A site. Only 1 rifle, though, in the hands of Carter to really work with.
Pressing forward on the attacking side of that main position. Swise backed up at Heaven. Spots, taps, and gets Carter to fall next to 5 versus 3. Spike is on site. Could, in theory, get planted from here. There's just too much presence around here for the Goose House, and indeed, Swise gets another kill back towards King. Has Canifis here on short, is aware of the last penultimate player, actually, and Lewitan now on the 1 versus 5. Pistol pulled out. Try to look for the jumping headshot. Does connect it, but it's not good enough for the kill on the Classic. So all 5 alive for the defensive side. 1 to the difference now here, Rook.
Yeah, that was a bit anxiety-inducing with that right click actually landing, and, well, another one likely would have killed. Really well played by the Goose House. They shut that one down with relative ease, and Vex do look a little bit lost. There's been a couple of rounds. Obviously, that was an eco round, but, well, no, half force, I think, if I remember correctly. They had a rifle on at least one of them.
Yeah, I think they had Carter on.
Yeah. It has been a couple of unforced errors, to borrow a term from tennis, in some of these rounds, and essentially they've just given the Goose House a way back into this game, whereas before they were really starting to get everything, well, the ball rolling, honestly. They were able to shut down most of the momentum that was coming on through, and then just one thing has to go wrong, because as I said before, every single player on the Goose House is a playmaker and the one who is looking to make those opportunities happen, and that is worth its weight in gold sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the Goose House, I think it took them, the first 4 rounds or so, they were sort of adjusting to what the side of Vex were doing. From there, we've seen a few, subtle minor changes. We've seen a few different positional, in terms of agents, where they're placed on the map have changed slightly. I think they realised the fact that it was Alex, right, on the side of Vex, kept trying to push towards mid. They elected to put the Killjoy there with the alarm bot, shut him down every single time. So those minor adjustments from the side of the Goose House seem to be playing out, for the better right now. But for the side of Vex, I think, their issue is that they seem to be somewhat getting onto the site quite well. Yep. And in comparison to the first, 3 rounds, I mean, if I just cast my mind back to the first full buy round when it was actually their bonus, they held the site quite well. But since then, I don't know if it's a little bit of, complacency coming in, maybe where they went 4 or 5 rounds to 1 up, where it was 4 rounds to 1 up. But over the past 2 rounds of Goose House, you got to say, although one was just the eco for the side of Vex, into that full buy as well, they look very, very nice, very relaxed, very comfortable. And take a little look at the economy across the board in terms of ultimates. You've got the Bladestorm available for Alex, the Hunter's Fury for KB, Lockdown available for Hash should he want to use it. On the other side, though, a counter lockdown for Swise, and Cosmic Divide, once again available for Canifis, even though he's only just invested it. It was Carter who invested it, sorry, wasn't it?
I was going to say, Carter was the player that tried to win that 1v1 clutch, but regardless, it's still going to be a Cosmic Divide that could be utilised, and on the defensive side, you can place those up in key positions that very easily deny any sort of potential executions for the attacking forces. A lot of potential, still a lot more for you available for the Vex side on the attack. Of course, they are the team in the lead, but only by a single round. And it's kind of like what we were talking about here, John. I mean, I mentioned my parallels from that last series from yesterday's proceedings. We saw that one map that went one-sided. This time, in the Icebox, at this point, we'd been looking at a 6-1 scoreline. Yeah. Now it's a much closer 4-3. Vex, well, they're being kept pace against, but they are still in the lead for now.
Yeah, I think, when you just look at the Goose House compared to Vex, I think the Goose House just have that added X factor, right, in terms of, and I think Rook and yourself, Jay, made a great point. Anyone at any time on the side of the Goose House can really step up and win your team the round, and I think that's what the side of Vex are lacking right now. I think a few times they probably relied on Louis or Alex and Carter as well, probably to try and be their vocal point in terms of the fragging department. And well, Keiko narrowly is going to miss, but there we go. I like that from Vex. The adjustments made. They knew that they started to have presence towards mid. It's going to be the first that have found. It's going to be Louis to find the second as well. And for the side of the Goose House, they find themselves at a 2-player disadvantage here, as it looks like it's a very aggressive stance towards A.
Yeah, the Goose House forced to back off. Swise in particular, back up over the garden. Carter and Co will lead the charge in towards main. Swise is in the midst of one of those smokes, trying his best to remove something. Any sort of trade frag would be nice to get back to, at least one, but no. Two left standing as Alex follows suit with another blind kill through the smoke. Canifis and Danny are grouped up as the spike plant comes in. One player reveals his position, and it should just be locked out of the sight from here. Canifis does get one decent exit towards Alex, so they are going to give it the good old college try. But flanks inbound from the other side of short. A crossfire lock. They've protected presence on at least one player. King Haas removes Danny. Now they're aware of where Canifis should be in his rough angle. And yeah, this should not be a clutch for him.
No, it really shouldn't be. It should be easily closed out here by Vex. And again, the play was really good, as you highlighted. The aggression was what we weren't asking for it, but I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to see that they're willing to try and break the kind of holes that the Goose House are going for, and that they have adaptation on their side as well. Good stuff here from Carter to close that one out, and a nice round for them.
It's the micro adjustment that I was talking about that the Goose House did so well and actually to counter Vexed initially, but now Vexed have done it straight back to them. They said, okay, well, where was we so successful? We were so successful getting mid control early on and I mean, you can hear the reactions from the Vex players. I instantly said it. You know, the biggest telltale in a game of Valorant, or, I mean, if you talk about FPSs in general, Jay, I know you're a CSGO man yourself, that if a team has lost a round or a couple rounds, and even a round in quite convincing fashion, like we've just seen the Goose House do, if they take an insta timeout, that means, you know, they need a bit of a breather. They need to try and go back to the drawing board, assess the situation, try and take the sting out of the game a little bit, because they thought, okay, that's a round that Vex are going to gain a lot of momentum off of. And you know what? That's very smart from the coaching team of the Goose House, to be totally honest with you.
On the contrary, though, Vex are in high spirits.
Yeah, exactly.
They just started laughing. They just literally started laughing as soon as that tack got called. And to their credit, the Goose House have used these tacticals to pretty good effect over the course of the tournament's run. So it's not exactly like they're completely held out of the woods here. Like, it could still turn around from here.
Yeah.
But of course, they're up against the Vex side, who are feeling confident. They're sounding confident. They're looking confident right now on their own map pick.
Yeah,
it feels confident.
Vex are chilling right now. They're kicking back, feet up on the desk, you know, relaxing, hand warmers, relaxing on their comfortable noble chairs, of course, as you know, they're feeling confident about themselves. You know, you got to say, as the Goose House though, coming off the back of that tactical timeout, it's really up to them. You know, now to see what they spoke about in that minute or so break. And look, they've got a very good coaching team, a very good talented team behind them. It's Big Time and Apox, I believe, if I said that right. And, you know, Vex, though, are they going to continue now after a successful... But look, I just noticed, look at the util positioning now from the Killjoy again in mid. They've made another micro adjustment here, the side of the Goose House.
Yeah, I really like it as well. Does mean you can try and deny that Jet from having that kind of sway in mid, as we saw in that previous round and in prior ones too. But another adjustment as well in putting Kaiko more aggressively on that B flank now means that they've got a frag and they're able to do a lot. But Alex has managed to gain control of that A site. The spray through the wall does tag him up a little bit, but not enough there. And is even pushing on out, but with the turret in the way, that's an easy frag for Swise.
Yeah, 5 versus 3. The Goose House locking down those entries one more time. Mid control struggled to be gained by the Vex play. You mentioned how they wanted to try and make adjustments to try and go more aggressive. It worked in the last round. This round they slowed down. It did not work out at all. Kaiko so aggressive on the contrary, meanwhile. And Vex will try flash their way here into the short position. The slow orbs will slow them down for now. They'll try to use the KO knives and get nothing out of it for it. Another counter slow orb coming in from the defensive line will just suppress for the time being. 30 seconds. They've got to get into the site soon.
Yeah, not a lot of time to work with that too. I like the positioning there, though, from the slow wall. So just delayed pop flash comes through from Louis. Going to find the swing. Going to find the snap onto Danny. Great shots from Louis as now Mzuri trying to be the next line of defense, and Louis finds the second.
And Plant comes down. They've now got hold of the site as Canifis drops down towards Dark, and that is a whole advantage tip in the way of Vex. Counter ultimates coming in. The defensive lockdown comes out. The attacking side are trying to hold it together, and they do deny that lockdown itself. So no ults, no driven away, and they have got the null command that they can also utilize against two individuals. Carter falling back out of position as Swise starts peeking forward. KB not going to get contact as the Goose House op the save.
Yes, for the side of Vex though, patient play, and we're talking what? They got the spike down with 11 seconds, I think, left on the clock, and that's purely off the back of Louis getting into tree, finding control over Heaven as well. Snaps onto the first, it was Danny who drops, and then you got to say the trade has to come through. It doesn't, unfortunately. He finds a 2K. I think Carter found one for his troubles on site as well. And that's, oh, I love that. I don't know if you've heard that. I love that. I love that from Vex. They've just said, do you want me to call a timeout for you? Because they feel like they've got the beating of the Goose House here on the first half. And to be totally honest with you, lads, I think they're completely right. You know, after the first few rounds, it looked very confident. Then we saw the Goose House start to fight back slightly. But these minor adjustments, I don't want to sound like a broken record. I probably do time and time again while casting. But, I mean, it's just fantastic. You know, readjustments from the side of Vex. They're doing a great job here of really out-predicting and out-foxing the side of the Goose House.
Yeah, I've also kind of loved the fact that they are actually able to deal with situations going really negatively for them. Because that's how that round started, right? The Jet pushes up, dies as well, and the Jet from the other side, Kaiko, gets these frags early, and yet they still manage to push onto the site and obviously get a swathe of frags and open it right on up. Now, let's see if they can do that again here, because I think it's going to be very important to push on into a site that isn't A, because there's so much utility here, and otherwise I think they're going to find themselves likely eaten up in a choke unless we see some really great play, for example, with the null command to come out here from Luatan, which could be a great way to entry onto the site and deny some of that utility from being used, especially if they can hit this Killjoy here in Swise and they aren't able to pop some of that utility.
Well, there we go. Lockdown coming in from the attacking side. It was denied by Hunter's Fury in the previous. There's no such ultis on the defensive that can deny it. So as soon as this comes in, they should be able to execute. But you can see how the defensive are going to evade it here. Just get out of the dodge. Alex will start to lean forward. They will use the null command at the same time. So execution inbound in full. Swise trying to hunt for a kill with Danny instead with the kill and doubles up all the same. Alex comes up with a flank, but Danny makes it a triple, locks them all out and gets a defensive round.
Yeah, huge stuff from Danny to say the least. You know, we sometimes highlight Danny on the likes of a more faster-paced agent. We see him sometimes pick up the Reyna, but on a map like Ascent, he takes a bit more of a reserved, slower pace role in terms of picking up the Sage, and oh boy, is he doing a good job at it at the moment. He was struggling towards the start and throughout this game, but that's going to be the momentum, that's going to be the kicker he needed to try and get himself back up and running in this game. He allows himself to now put the revive back online. Canifis also got the Cosmic Divide to stop any sort of advancement, and well, for the side of Vex, they're only down to the Blaze Storm in terms of the ult. That was 3 big ults invested into that round.
Yeah, massive stuff commitment and just nothing to show for it. It's been a bit of a common factor for the Vex side in the tournament. We saw this in yesterday's proceedings when they were up against the Goose House. They had many great rounds where they committed so many ultimates and got nothing for their trouble. There's 2 left in the difference in this score line. The attacking side will try prod towards mid once again. A lot more passive this time though, Rook.
Yeah, a lot more passive and not playing quite as so aggressively for mid, though they are looking for a chance to maybe strike on up there. But look at where the spike is. It shows that they're just looking for maybe a pick, for information, and to figure out what is the best site to attack. You know, I would like to see kind of a bit more focus towards that B side. I know it can be difficult, but I think the team could definitely get it. Especially, I think KO is fantastic at pushing that site. If you leverage the strengths of one of your strongest players in Luatan, I think you should be able to get it working. Testing mid, however, as they feel that is such an important part of the map. And obviously it is. It leads to everything else. It means you can deny those rotates and really start to, you know, choke out the defense.
Where do they commit from here? They have short presence. The spike has been picked up and it looks to go make its way towards A. So that seems to be the likely play. 30 seconds and Luatan starts pressing in. Sees those smokes are pressing towards the garden and main entrances. Swise sees what's going on. Alarm bot does get triggered and the turret can also act. It's Danny and Swise, this dynamic duo that locks down the site. They do lose Danny in the exchange though. Swise is going massive, gets another kill. Emzu on rotation, holds it up, and it's Vex with KB alone in the 1v3. 1 player on site, 1 player up heaven, and Emzu doesn't need to take a face. A shock dart's good enough for 5 to the Goose House board.
Yeah, back-to-backs now for the Goose House, just to what looked like could have been quite a convincing scoreline for the side of Vex, to 8 rounds to 4 or so, 9 to 3 maybe. Is now looking a little bit more closer for comfort. I mean, you know, the side of Vex have at least guaranteed themselves 6 rounds on the board here, of course, as we are heading into our final round of the first half. And for the side of the Goose House, you go in here at 6-6, you know, after a tough middle stage of the game for you. You're going to be saying, look, we're now going into a side which I probably think suits the Goose House a little bit more in terms of their own individual angel and ability and playing on the aggressive front, which is the attacking side. They're looking at a good job to try and close out this map and take a 2-0 in the series. Alex, the first out, Blade Storm in hand, is going to go ahead and try and advance his way over towards the B site. Snaps onto Swise, first blood, first draw of the board for Vexed.
All important, kicking things off for the attacking forces. Emzu and Co held away from main by a single smoke. The Owl drone will try and spot info. They'll see another Owl drone the same. We're very aware of the information prods from both sides. A late lurk from one player in mid could be a key problem for the Goose House side. It depends on how Vex are going to play this. Shock darts will dish out some damage as Danny gets tagged to 90, and Kaiko's accounted for this individual. It's also Cosmic Divide coming down now. The defenders looking to press up. The time is ticking away, but again, it's all down to that flank here from the Vex camp. Mzuu with a kill to KB. Carter comes up good at point blank. Canifis will end up falling, and Kaiko still focused towards Market. Mzuu deals with him. A 3 versus 3. They're out of HP. They're out of time. Blazestorm gets called in by Alex as Danny brings Canifis. His Hunter's Fury that also comes out from Mzuu. Kaiko with a kill, but time still running low as Alex gets a headshot, looks for that last player. He stalled for enough time regardless. The kill will come down, but the round is Vexed.
Wow, they invested so much there because it was the last round, but unfortunately it wasn't enough, as Vex just did manage to delay for so darn long. Actually executing on site was so difficult. You could see them hurried, panicked, honestly, in the way they were trying to push it on in. And the fact that Carter got the all-important kill at point-blank range, as you highlighted, was so impactful in kind of basically just staggering them. They literally just like, oh, we can't push there now. What are we going to do? We have to execute so quickly, and people literally spurred into life, but unfortunately it was too little too late, and they just didn't have the time to use the ultimates correctly. They want to play slow a lot of the time, but the Goose House are finding themselves strapped for time more often than not in these rounds which they're losing.
You know what, Vex, to get the anxiety pumping quite high in some of these rounds, but boy oh boy, I wouldn't change it at all, as they're a very entertaining team to watch. And you've got to say, already both squads, both the Goose House and Vex, really put on a show for both the people watching here live from Kettering and Epic 35. But Swise is there to find the first. Alex drops. Louis Tan's going to find the refrag. 4 versus 4, as once again, middle of the map looks like it's going to be the key area of focus for the Goose House, and they're going to advance their way in and through market and towards that B site.
One player on site, one player's caught on the rotation. Danny ahead of the smoke, so Gravity Hall could also get pulled out. It's not going to end up doing so. KB resting with a flank angle. When will he strike? Not about now. Danny pressing in, turns around against Canifis, who does end up dealing with KB. Mzuu overwhelms Luatan on the backside, and it will be a 3v2 with a spike going down.
Yeah, really nice here for the Goose House. They get the spike down, they get so much control of the B site, and they still have those Astra Stars left, as you can see on your screen now. King Has tries to find one, but unfortunately forced back by the concussion there, and instead will start to, mount a staging post for the rest of their team to push on forward. Not a lot of health left on 2 of these members, and that's something to keep in mind. The upgrade to the Sheriff, and they're going to have a lot of firepower moving in here, even though they don't have the same number of players. It's all up to Canifis, I think, to deliver here, especially with that utility starting to come on in. They don't manage to hit the shots, and there's still 2 alive, too many targets, and Mzuu shuts out King Has.
Yeah, you got to say, it's from the side of Vexed, it was somewhat of a bit of a scrappy initial hold. I mean, I think KB tried to play for the kill off through the smoke, but I think he was spotted by Canifis eventually, and upon the retake, I mean, 2 versus 3 is always hard. You had a lot of utility to work with, though, in terms of the Astra Stars being placed in quite good spots, but the Goose House, well, they stand strong here on the first round of the second half here. Of course, if you're just joining us, both in venue and on the stream at home, map number 1, of course, quite convincingly in favour of the Goose House on Icebox. Solid performance from them. A little bit more of a closer affair here as, oh, look how aggressive Alex has got up into Link here.
Yeah, pressing forward across the entire defensive line, but the Goose House just lock it down. Pistols v rifles, or SMGs in this case, either way, automatics versus not so automatics, and Luatan not so dead, despite the fact that he should be. 21 HP, that bar is redder than anything else I've seen on this map, to be honest. I mean, these walls are pretty red, but that's even redder than that. The spike goes down towards the A site. At least he's got a rifle, again, an SMG to work with, an automatic to work with. There's not really much that you can really do in this clutch, though. It's just too much to handle. And Kaiko there with the Marshal. Can't quite land the flick, can't quite land the shot, but should get given a second chance and should be able to do it regardless.
Yeah, a little bit of damage done, though, from Louis Tan, to be fair, you could say the least. I mean, it's going to drop 2 guns out of the hands and make the bonus round ever so much a little bit harder for the side of the Goose House. Louis going to find a headshot on to Kaiko, but can't convert the kill. Unfortunately, it's going to be Kaiko who cleans that up. 7 rounds apiece here in what's been very quite back and forth game here on Ascent in map number 2, to be honest, gentlemen. I think it's... We spoke about the good old saying of, okay, we'll win 2 rounds, you win 2 rounds in the upper bracket final in terms of that Haven game we saw. And Haven is actually, in fact, on map number 3 here, should we need it. But, of course, the Goose House just a few rounds away now, you could pretty much say. If they get off to a good bit of a ball roll here off the back of the bonus, this could be a very, very pivotal round here in this game, Jay.
Well, it certainly will, because this is going to define the lead.
Yep.
Could Vex be overtaken right now by the Goose House side? Of course, they lost the pistol, they lost the conversion, they had no real firepower in the last couple of rounds, and now they're going to get the rifles out, versus the bonus round, of course, for the Goose House, which they've been very successful in converting themselves, so that could even be a bigger momentum swing to their favours in this series, Rook.
Yeah, it really could be. And I think kind of moving on through here and kind of shutting down this this rifle round is what obviously the Goose House wants to do, and they are a team who's very successful at doing this. So this, I think, is such an important juncture that Vexed need to not make those unforced errors and lose out on this round where they really should be winning. They are a strong team, they know how to play this defense well, and with rifles they should be able to shut this down, but they've failed a couple of times now, and it makes me worry, honestly.
Default set in Luatan. Already detecting 2 individuals. Kaiko, one of the 2 that have been suppressed. Got himself deep in towards the short control, though. And the Goose House could work with this. So could Vex. Although with suppression being involved, it seems like neither side are going to get away with anything major. They do tag 1 with a firebolt. But no casualties yet.
Yep, no casualties just yet. But, well, you got to think here, first blood. I mean, we talk about it so much. Your first frag of the round, you know, you get the numbers advantage. But especially on a bonus for the side of Goose House, if they can find the first draw here in, you know, what this important 15th round, I believe, is, you know, very, very pivotal. You mentioned it, Jay, that, you know, it's not only going to establish the lead, but for the side of the Goose House, it's going to force the side of the Eco back again for the side of Vex. You're probably then looking at, what, a 9th on the board, or at least it should be for the side of the Goose House. But if you're Vex and you win this, you know the Goose House has at least got the buy round and the rifle round next up. So I think more to lose here in this bonus for the side of Vex. But again, I mentioned, you know, the Goose House, they like to change sites quite often. They rotate back and forth between the 2 sites quite well. Cosmic Divide's going to be invested, and I like the fact that they're going towards B. It's a little bit more of a closer ranged engagement for those submachine guns to try and take the advantage of.
Smoked to buy a bit of cover. Alex will press ahead of Cosmic Divide, at least initially he does do so, lows them all down. And Kaiko able to get at least 1 good trade for it, but the firepower working better for the Vex side. Shock darts will try and catch even more. Kaiko's going to evade it. The spike does at least get planted for them, and Kaiko's aggression does not work out. Canopus now versus 4. At least smokes up one side of the site. The other entryway could also be counteracted. At point blank, Luatans with a pistol out, and it will be the lead maintained by Vexed.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned it is the to the bonus for the side of the Goose House here, Rook, and you got to say, for them they won't be too much worried about it, right? But going into this, if you're the side of Vexed, you've obviously just won the first buy round and the first rifle round you've had in this half. Going into the first full buy across both teams. If you're Vexed here, you win this. You're looking at a pretty decent amount of util usage for your ults, and you're obviously forcing the Goose House down onto an eco again. Could this be quite a pivotal round in the game as well?
I mean, evidently it's rifle into rifle, right? And it's going to really reset the economy of whichever team basically loses. And from there, they'll be able to start to take that, go on forward, generate those ultimates, and make a big difference. I really thought the Cosmic Divide in the last round was a good idea, but when it fails, you feel so bad that you now don't have it in this pivotal round, and instead they're going to have to face down the null command from Luatan, who's been having a great game, at least in my opinion so far, will likely continue to be a hindrance to you.
Slow walks in, very fast plays initially. Alex spots what's going on and recognises, okay, this is definitely going to be a B here. That line held by King Haas. The alarm bot gets triggered, so they do have some information as to which side they're going to attack from. The spray through the wall bangs, only dishing out so much damage to one individual of the attacking side. The spray on the second face will not be nearly as successful. As Canopus gets the kill, it will be a 5v4. The B site has fallen.
I was honestly shocked that he didn't find another kill there, did King Haas, but hey, he got a lot of low players, and that could settle well for Carter here.
Sprays through the wall bang, tempted to get the kills back. They do blind 2 players off. Kaiko somehow getting away unscathed until Carter and Luatan line up their sprays. Emzu at least keeps the trades into a 3 versus 3. The retake is on, but the HP once again is not there for the Goose House. Emzu with a kill, Danny with a follow-up, Luatan with a ratist, but it's Carter now standing alone. Picks up a rifle and is desperate to look to those backlines to hold the sight. And it's Danny with the kill, with the round. 8-all to the board.
Yeah, I don't know. The communication has to be a little bit better there from Vex. I think I have no idea why Danny's looking towards B main. I think they've spotted Swides on site initially. I think it was Haz who spotted him towards Catwalk upon the second spray down, so they must knew that he's crossed towards site. So 8 rounds apiece though, down to the Spectres for a few of the players from Vex, and this is a quite bold decision from them. Actually, I'm just looking across the board. I believe the fact that Alex is going to put the rifle in his hand probably indicates that he'll be popping the Blade Storm in the next round, which will be the rifle round for Vex. A couple SMGs though, with the Stinger and the Spectre in the hand of Carter and KB. No mistakes though could be made here from the Goose House on this round. They should realistically put themselves in the lead for what will be one of the first times in this map, or I think actually might be the first time in general for Vexed. Just down to the Sheriffs, and a very, very poor buy at that. Any damage done here to the weaponry of the Goose House will be, of course, an addition to them.
Yeah, be a good chance. They actually opted out of the rifle on Alex, thinking about keeping it for the next round where it could be more impactful, aware that they could easily get shot out of this one pretty easy as they are looking to set up towards that A site.
It's very slow, very quiet, very considerate right now from the Goose House side, knowing that we're dead set even, and this could finally be their chance to take that lead away from the Vex camp, or it could still be to their demise at this stage in the series. 50 seconds, and the rotations come hard back into the B site.
Yeah, and it's something that I've really wanted to make a point over the Goose House. And it's a bit of a staple of the way that they play on the attacking half, is they don't mind planting with 10, 11 seconds left on the board. They don't mind it. They probably feel more comfortable doing that. They like to, you know, force the players to re-rotate, and well, they've done just that. Look, it's 4 players over towards A, just a solo with the Killjoy. It's going to be Haas all left alone. He's going to be swarm grenaded out. The spike should be planted momentarily. And complete control over the B site here for the Goose House. But with the rifles up against the pistols, it's not too much of a shock. But, you know, just a pure fact in the way that they're able to just, you know, sort of dictate where the opponents actually play on the map it's rather impressive.
Yeah, it should be easy enough for the Vex side to justify going for the hit because of the fact that it is pistols v rifles. You're not losing much. You'll have the buyback in the next round. Try to see if you can do some damage. Maybe try and get the miracle of keeping the lead in your favour. Players coming in from the back and front. One from Market, the same. Canifis starting to lean forward. The doors are closed. The barrier orb is still up. Main has been completely contested. Could also be exit frags right here. Just keep these players in the site. If you can take those weapons out of the hands, force the reinvestment, that's also a possibility to do some economical damage. Carter leaning forward. All sorts of crossfires. Lots. King Haas does get away with a couple of decent frags, and Carter follows up with 2, 3 of his own. Have they got time? No, they haven't got time for the spike defuse. I thought for a second that they could have committed to that, but that is a very expensive round for the part of the attackers.
Well, the defenders don't get that much either. They just lost 3 players. But you're right, it does hurt real bad if you're the Goose House, because you're the ones who spent money in that round. That stings, and you don't have much in the way of kind of armor on a couple of these players now, and that could make a really big difference.
Well, it doesn't really matter the fact that Vexter have had 2 die there. Okay, they get the kills, and they probably would have saved the Vandals through anyway, but they're going to get the money from dying regardless to put the rifles in their hands anyway. And with 3 ults on the board and 2 big ones at that in the Cosmic Divide, and of course the lockdown in available with the hands of Hasp. You've got to say though, the Goose House, that's a very expensive round for them. They're now down to what, half armor across the board for every single one of their players. Alex is going to not find the burst. Swai shuts him down. Huge engagement upon the rip here in what is going to be our 19th round on the board, and you got to say, numbers advantage and probably a potential further round advantage for the side of the Goose House here. Wouldn't surprise me if we see that lockdown invested. Well, there it goes. That's going to pin that solo player of KB back onto the site. I would like to see one of these players probably try and hold the cross out of the Cosmic Divide if they can, and it's going to be Louis towards CT.
Kaiko pressing in from platform. Rifle in play. They've still a player back of KB. They might think it's completely clear. Will they check this back line? Yes, they will. LMG tries to hold it, and Carter gets away with a decent kill. Doubled up as a result of it. Eventually overwhelmed. KB gets a kill back, and Emzu is left. Here's the 1 versus 2 with him and Swise. 1 player standing on the retake for the Vex side.
Yeah, there is a lockdown available, and he's going to use it, but the Hunter's Fury shortly has to come out to destroy it. Either that, or they're going to rely on them both playing back site, and if they do, they're going to push up and play for the kill.
Here comes Hunter's Fury, like you mentioned, trying to think and deny it, and indeed they do destroy the lockdown, but King Haas gets away with the kill. Emzu has the info, though, and turns the last shot of Hunter's Fury into a triple and into a 10-8. Goose House are back in full control.
And another example of the coordination that comes out from the Goose House. The Hunter's Fury comes on through barely in the nick of time. I would know,
I was
taking
about
down
to say
that lockdown. I was worried that it was actually going to pop and they were going to look like chumps. But because they push up together, because they play together, not only do they destroy the lockdown, but then they turn that Hunter's Fury around and get the frag as well. Really well played by Emzu yet again, and shows again the class of this player. He's happy to flex, he's happy to play any role, and still shows great shot calling, great decision making more than anything.
I mean, 3 more rounds to get past the finish line for the attacking side. Goose House up by a map in this series. And if they get this victory, it will be a 2-0 to claim the championship here at Epic 35, dethrone the Kings of Vexed. Guns are out once again for Kaiko. Forced to dash away, but a flashes forward. Carter trying to make plays in with a Spectre. They need to find something soon. Vex need to counteract as much of the aggression of the Ghost House as they can. And indeed, there is going to be a kill against Danny.
First blood drawn for the side of Vex. Oh, Carter! Oh. Not Carter, sorry, Alex for a second. It was good. I don't know how he's allowed players to just walk all the way back through and get complete control of the site. Swise, though,
oh no,
gonna drop speaking of Astra players, it's going to be Canifis left alive. Finds the first. He knows the other 3 players are towards the top. Can he find the second? He can't. Alex finds the third, and you've got to say that's purely off the back of Alex popping off in the round. He managed to go quickly, sneak in behind enemy lines towards top mid, and I've got no idea why they've got not at least one person, even if it's the likes of a Killjoy turret holding top mid. You've got to have someone positioned there, otherwise you're going to give away the round 9 times out of 10, and they give away that round. Unfortunately, they're going to be forced down onto the eco. Realistically here, chaps, if we're speaking about a box standard Valorant game, you probably should see this go 10 to 10, but the amount of eco wins we've seen in this, it wouldn't surprise me if the Goose House pull it off.
Yeah, I was honestly really impressed by just how much TGH managed to pull stuff out of nowhere, is the way of saying it, because it feels like they just managed to make magic happen. And I'm excited to see whether they can do that again here. This is their opponent's map pick, by the way, and they really are taking it to them. I'm so excited to see what we potentially get on Haven here. I want to go to that third map, because so far this series has been fantastic.
They'd storm up close and personal here. Alex might not be ready for it. Behind the smokes, dipping away, backing off. Smart call, spray through. Tags Kaiko a little bit. Forced to back away with a healing play of their own. They've got a HP advantage in a slight amount on the attacking side. Further fallen back from this position. What felt like it was going to be a fast split in towards that B site has turned into a passive default again.
Yeah, well, looks like they're going to try and head over towards A, but that spike 2 players aren't going to meet them though. It's going to be Carter and Louis Vuitton, but I kind of like that and I respect it from the Goose House. I think if they tried to commit towards that B site, they were just lying in wait, to be honest. I think the play, you know, sort of the call here from the side has to be to try and allow Kaiko to try and make something happen with this Blade Storm. He's a great player with it, as the execution's going to come through, and well, he's instantly shut down by Louis. Snaps onto the second. Can he find the third? It doesn't matter because he snaps onto the player, and it's going to be Carter to clean him up.
And now 2 left standing. I've got Swise backed up here over at Market. Does find King Has. And actually, that could be a rotation for the Spike carrier here. Swise has got to hold off against the rotators, which will be a bit of a difficult affair, given the sheer amount of firepower they've got. And the high HP all time as well to consider. And with Swise falling, that should be removed from it. Vex should be able to equalize once again. Canifis with no HP will just capture the ulti orb. Leave it at that here. Concede it back. 10 apiece once again as Canifis falls and Vex equalize the game.
Yeah, really well played by Vex to make sure they don't lose too much there, because I was very worried it could have gone wrong. Yeah. They play it well, play it clean, and don't lose all that much. Sure, they lost control of that B side, but it didn't matter because of the shenanigans going on A. Yet again, Louis Vuitton showing why he is one of the top players in this tournament, and I'm so impressed by it. Another timeout coming out here from the Goose House.
And I will note, no confidence from Vex.
It's important.
They know they are pushed back on the back foot. They know that they could still lose this map from here. And they've got to concentrate just as much as the Goose House do.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the timeout is probably well taken from the Goose House here. I think, you know, they're the ones, I don't want to say that have more to lose here, but I feel like they're the ones in this map probably have looked the more convincing to try and win the rounds that they need to. But if you're the side of the Goose House, you're probably setting yourself up for a nice execute. It's a very, very important full buy round and rifle round across the board. You're probably saying to yourself, okay, what you two have they got to work with? They've got the Hunter's Fury and the Cosmic Divide to invest. Let's try and, you know, avoid the likes of Mzu, and let's try and avoid Canifis if we can. They've only got the res to work with themselves, though. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the Goose House here. There's 2 big ults available to stop the push, and I mean, the likes of Louis, for example, played so well off the 0-point information to pop flash out, and well, he's 20-11 at the moment. So as we head into a very, very important round here between these 2 sides. If you look at, in terms of the weaponry and the armory for the side of the Goose House, though, only 1 player with full armor completely intact. I mean, you would say, if you're a man that looks at it on paper, Vexed could have what it takes to close out this, and then would force the Goose House onto an eco, looking at putting the side of Vex onto match point. They want to try and force this map number 3.
It's going to be Brain over Brawn for Goose House, and the Brain's certainly set with Alex once again. Aggressive plays in from the defensive line, and they'll check and clear out so much info. Spot 1, tap, not quite there against the player. Or may have even seen 2 of them. Hunter's Fury coming through from the defensive. They're aware of what's going on. Can they get any tags or kills? I think 1 player did get tagged on that exchange. The heals can come back as they press up to the B side. There's no one there to defend it. They're just held out towards main. The spike should get planted from here.
They are indeed. You still see those two players coming in on the flank. I think Vex making a very good call here to play a lot slower than they normally would. They want to try and deny this plant, but it's not going to be easy. Kaiko actually slips by here, and he's still holding the angle. Knows that King Haas is there. Gets the spray, but doesn't kill him, and in fact takes more damage than he even put in there.
And more of the body was showing, so Kaiko could take a lot more back. Alex now joined by another. Spray through against Swice. Swice gets the kill and doubles up. KB able to respond. King Haas is known. A 4v3 favourable to the Goose House. Cosmic Divide comes into the back lines to force them away from the back corridors. A shock dart in against Swice, tagging him even further lower. Canifis with a kill though. It's down to 2 now for the Vex side. Swice tapping and bursting onto that backline position, onto that main entrance. Carter triggering the alarm bot, will be vulnerable for the moment being. And Canifis can come up with the triple as a result. Get the 11 for defend the lead for the Goose House.
Yeah, and that's 2 big ults as well for the side of Vexed invested. I don't know. I really question that decision to pop the Hunter's Fury from KB. Okay, yeah, cool. You've got the information towards mid. You could probably find a tag up here or there, maybe find a kill. But the side of the Goose House, they had the rest to work with anyway. So unless you're going to confirm the kill on Danny 100% of the time, it's a bit of a waste. You would rather try and use it for a potential retake to deny the spike plant, for example, to flush players out off of the site. But for the side of the Goose House now, though, the revive, like I mentioned in the pocket of Danny, Swise just 1 ult orb or a kill away from that lockdown. The Cosmic Divide available for Canifis. It looks like here, gentlemen, that Vexed have decided to put the rifles in their hand, and it could potentially be the start of their downfall. As you know, like the Goose House, they win this, they advance on to match point, series point, and it's only going to be the economy that's very, very low for the side of the Vex to work with.
Yeah, no Hunter's Fury as you kind of highlighted here, and it's not there to kill the lockdown. This B site is going to be completely theirs. It was going to be anywhere. They were not really contesting it in the same way. You're going to get that lockdown and move on through.
No players detained. Cosmic Divide this time for the attacking side will siphon off any entryways for the defenders. The spike should get onto the site, should get planted from here, but the concern will end up being that retake. All players formed up at main, trying to updraft and look for anything they can. For Alex in particular, that spike goes down, and basically all bases are covered here from the Goose House. They have presence in main, they have presence on the site. The only thing they don't have is anyone that can watch out market directly, but it's Alex with the operator that strikes on Emzu, expecting there to be some main entrance players as well. We'll look over to the side, desperate to look to the backlines. Luatan flashing forward, but out in the open, it's Swise that gets the kill for it. Can't double up as well alongside Kaiko's frag, and now it's left towards 1. Luatan can't do much, neither can Alex, and it's 12-10, match and tournament point for the Goose House.
Yeah, the pot flash from Louis, unfortunately, I think it's actually hit his teammate Haas as he comes around the corner, and a spray and a pray, unfortunately not working for him. But like you mentioned, Jay, we now advance to series and tournament point for the Goose House, and you got to say, if it ends here, okay, Vex, they went out swinging, they went out on their feet fighting, but you couldn't really complain with it. We're talking about a team that's not dropped a single map in the whole tournament. Coming into this game, coming into the first upper bracket game against Vex, they dropped, I think, 8 rounds total in the competition or something crazy like that. It was obscene, honestly. But the Goose House now just 1 round away and just 4 kills away from picking up Epic Land 35 as Alex falls to Kaiko.
Man, oh man, Vexed are feeling the pressure. They have rifles, but not on everybody. They have some Spectres, so they can try and play these closer angles, but with the info coming out from players like Emzu, it's so hard to be in the right place at the right time because they know where you are too. And there's quite a slow, measured approach here, and Vexed even looking for mid control. I think it's a good shout. Get something for your team and then play from there. It looks like it's going to be another commit towards that B side, but look at how much utility is waiting there. There's going to be so much pop to try and deny them, and this time they don't have an ult to try and just force and manhandle their way on through. They do have a res if things go wrong, but there's not enough to just force it open ajar like we've seen in the last couple of rounds, and that might be a problem for them if they might get delayed just long enough here.
Rotations inbound, 1 player already out towards main. Spray is blinded. They have got Kaiko already in at the hut position. Dropping down to the site, the spike should get planted, but again, it's all down to the retaking forces of the defensive. Down by a player and desperate to hold this round. The Vex, it's do or die, win or bust. Checking corners for KB, the Owl drone checking the site itself will spot 2 players on the aggressive positions. It's Kaiko that will get forced back by the fragment. Another player right behind him as well as King Haas with an all-important frag. Swise to fall, and Canifis ahead of the game, trying to spray, gets a kill. KB with a responsive, Danny with another one back. A 3-on-2, flashbang forward for Luatan, needs that killed, indeed he does. 2v2 now, spot the player
Louis!
Burst to the headshot, and Emzu, one for the clutch, and it's a tournament-winning clutch. 13-10 for the Goose House, and a 2-0 series that makes them champions of Epic 35.
The Goose House, solid stuff for them, solid performance. Unfortunately for Vex, they just ran out of steam when it seemed to have mattered so much. And I mean, you've got to say, thoroughly deserved from the Goose House. They look like the standout competitors. I called it at the start. I said I think it's going to be a tight but convincing 2-0. At the start of the weekend when I was on the Phoenix show, I said, look, the Goose House are going to be the team to beat here, and quite evidently they were. And you got to say, commiserations for Vex. Obviously, still quite a new lineup, but the Goose House, then again, they are too. And I think this sets up the Goose House for a potential kick-on and a successful middle and end to 2022.
But how characteristic is that this series went exactly the same way as the upper bracket finals did? A one-sided map pick from the Goose House and then a very close steal from the Goose House on the Vex map pick. The same here, Rook. Seems like history repeats itself quite a lot here at Epic Land.
Does indeed. History is important, and honestly, you got to be feeling bad for the Vex players because they felt like they could break the curse. Things were looking so good for them on that second map, but it fell apart. The clutch was there, and I think, honestly, the player who really stood out to me was Mzuu, finding that final clutch, a great performance across the map, and able to pretty much just close it out at the very bitter end there.
Absolutely, and I guess now is the time to start talking about MVPs, right? We're going to make an official decision in a little bit, but I want to entertain that conversation with you at a small moment here. So, in terms of who you personally would think about, in this one series alone, not quite the tournament MVP, but a series MVP, who would you be going with?
I think I've got to swing towards the likes of Mzuu, honestly, on the side of the Goose House. He was so solid. I think everything, you know, if we're talking grand final only, kind of went through him, whether it be on the Sova, whether it be on the Sage. I thought Icebox, he was the standout player every time that the Goose House needed someone to pop off to get a 2K or a 3K. I felt like it was him, and the same on Ascent, really. The amount of retake potential he used on the defensive side of things with his great recons on the Sova and just pure aim ability. We mentioned he was a player that used to play a duelist, so he's comfortable taking 1v1s, of course. But if we're talking about the tournament as a whole, that's a whole completely different story because there's about 5 or 6 names on the list that you could make an argument for.
Yeah, most likely here. Rook, final closing thoughts?
Definitely Mzuu for me on the MVP, and congratulations to the Goose House. It's been a long time coming. I'm really impressed with them.
Well, Vex have been thrown by some honky boys as the Goose House take the series 2-0 fashion and the tournament here at Epic Land. I believe the stage is set and ready, if I'm being told correctly, here for Jazz and Cody to talk to our victors, to talk to our champions, and talk to the Goose House.
Thank you very much for that fabulous introduction there, Jay. Congratulations once again to the Goose House. Give them a round of applause once again. Let's go.
We're still on screen.
Wonderful, wonderful performance there, Canifis. And from the very start of the game, you actually did mention, let's, do all the gameplay and let that do all the talking. So was it a surprise to you that it was such a dominant performance over in the first map?
You know what? I'm listening. I said before the game it was going to be a 2-0. We stick to our word. I couldn't be more proud of the boys, honestly. All the work we put in scrims, there's highs, there's lows, and you know what? We want to become like actual respected professional players, and this is just the first step. First step of many. We're going to qualify for VRLs next. We're going to win that. Let's fucking... Sorry. sorry.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
So was there at all a moment in time where you guys kind of decided, you know what, things aren't looking too good for us going into this match? And was there a little bit of nerves coming into play now as well, playing on LAN and up on a stage as well for any of you guys at all?
Honestly, for me, I thought I'd get nervous on stage, but I was actually all right. Obviously, was a little bit nerves here and there, not enough time to warm up, etc. But you know what, we played our game, we stuck to the plan, and we 2-0'd them just like we said we would. So that's it, really.
And for your coach, I have a question for you. Going into this match, were you guys actually taking a look at any of the Vex demos, any of their previous gameplay as well, in order to kind of prepare for Epic LAN itself, or was it just like a let's show up and play our own game?
I mean, yes, so we did watch their VODs, but I think ultimately it's just playing our own game.
All right, cool. Any final words that you'd like to give to the crowd for supporting you? Because the cheering has been absolutely amazing. You guys' energy on stage has been absolutely amazing. Any final words you'd like to give to the crowd?
Shout out to the watch party. I know everyone was watching in Discord in the Goose House. So, shout out to you guys. Appreciate the support. It was nice meeting everyone at the Goose Land, and I hope everyone enjoyed this showing today. So, get goosed.
I love that. Round of applause for them once again. We'll provide you with your wonderful trophy as well. Congrats, guys. Go on, get your LAN picks in. GG's for the Goose House for winning the epic 35 Valorant tournament. Congrats, guys. When do you get your phones? Who has them?
Steve got phones. Jump backstage. And that is it for Valorant. It's been a long event.
You know, it's actually nearing to an end. Epic Clan is officially nearing to an end, but it's
You're going to
not...
make me tear up now.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. It's not quite over yet, though, because we still have CSGO coming up as well. Cody,
More FPS.
Yes, I know. Talk to us a little bit about the teams that we've got coming up next for CS.
Yeah, so a couple of names which you may have heard of, and if you haven't heard of the team names, you certainly heard some of the players. You've got Echo Esports, who are a newish brand on the scenes, but of course, players who you will know of LVN, etc., and that roster, the ex-Phoenix guys. And then you've got Dusty, the Icelandic stack with Christ standing in for them, helping out. And yeah, honestly, this is going to be a fantastic game. So we're going to get that set up for you guys. But if you are interested in more FPS, interested in more CSGO action later on as well, then make sure you chill around. I think we're planning to get started. Well, it's about to be 1 p.m. But I don't know if that's, I don't know what the schedule's like. We'll keep you updated.
Yes, do not go anywhere because we will be right back after this break with plenty more CSGO action, actually. Dusty Coolbet versus Echo Esports. You don't want to miss this.